Chapter 329. It had been some time since the New Year's Day performance ended, which meant that winter break was not far away. At the same time, the final exams before winter break were coming. There were about 3 weeks to the final exams. Yun Jian woke up early this morning. As usual, she went for a morning run with Zhang Xiaofeng and her newly joined brother, Yun Yi, before heading to Dragon Head Gang, which was now Falcon Hall's headquarters. The fact that the original Dragon Head Gang had changed its name to Falcon Hall had caused a commotion in Longmen City. The reason for the commotion was that the original Dragon Head Gang, which was now Falcon Hall, had changed hands. Su Zetian was no longer the mafia boss. It was said that the position of Longmen City's mafia boss was replaced by a woman named Slang Luo. This woman named Slang Luo was, without a doubt, Yun Jian. Yun Jian was the one who came up with the moniker. Yun Jian did not plan to replace Longmen City's mafia boss with her real name, and she was too lazy to think of a new name. Slaying God was her codename when she was the king of secret agents, so it was inappropriate to use it again. Slashing God was her codename as a special forces soldier, so it was inappropriate for it to appear again. Hence, Yun Jian adopted the slaying character from her past life's codename, Slaying God, and formed a new codename with Luo Gong. Slaying Luo. Hence, the most popular rumor in the underworld was that a woman named Slaying Luo had replaced Longmen City's mafia boss. It was also said that this woman named Slaying Luo had killed her way into Dragon Head Gang's inner circle, but she did not cripple the gang's original boss, Su Zetian, but let him continue to take over his original job. There were people who commented on Falcon Hall's new boss, "This woman must be out of her mind." Of course, there were many rumors, but no one had the ability to obtain accurate information. Hence, everything became hearsay. Now, Yun Jian was carrying a shoulder bag as she walked toward Falcon Hall's headquarters. There was a small shop near Falcon Hall's headquarters. Yun Jian went in to buy a pack of bubble gum and blew a few bubbles as she leisurely made her way to Falcon Hall's headquarters. When the two men guarding the door saw Yun Jian, they couldn't help but shout happily, "Boss." Everyone in Falcon Hall had heard about what happened to Yun Jian. However, no one would not recognize Yun Jian as their boss. The news had spread in the gang that their new boss was the director of new crews. She spent less than half a year to bring new crews to where it was today. It was obvious that her strength was not to be underestimated. Yes. Yun Jian also nodded at the two guards. Then, she stepped through the main entrance of the building and walked inside. After a while, Yun Jian came out again. But this time, Yun Jian didn't come out alone. There were two people beside her. At first glance, the person on the left was Qin Yu while the one on the right was Su Zetian. Yes, Yun Jian was carrying a shoulder bag. She was planning to go to the National Underground Mafia's tea party. She only planned to bring two people, Su Zetian and Qin Yu. In the beginning, the higher-ups objected to the arrangement. After all, Yun Jian was the boss of Longmen City's underworld. Now that she was going to attend the tea party of the National Underground Mafia, it was only natural that she brought sufficient manpower. In spite of it, other than Su Zetian and Qin Yu, Yun Jian did not plan to bring anyone else. Chapter 330. Country Z's National Mafia Tea Party was held in F City of Ji Province, far away from Longmen City and even Ji Province. The mafia that organized the tea party was Ji Province's provincial mafia, the Green Tiger Mafia. The Green Tiger Gang had been established a long time ago. It was said that the gang had already gained a foothold in the area during the Qing dynasty. Even after the war ended, the Green Tiger Gang was still the boss of the entire Ji Province. The Green Tiger Mafia had tens of thousands of members scattered across various cities in Ji Province. Their influence and status were incomparable to the original Dragon Head Mafia. In spite of it, the Green Tiger Mafia and Falcon Hall did not have any conflict of interest because the Green Tiger Mafia was in Ji Province while Falcon Hall was in Ji Province's Longmen City. Moreover, the two mafia groups were not in the same field at the moment. One was the provincial boss while Falcon Hall was at most the biggest mafia group in Longmen City. With Falcon Hall's current status, they did not have much influence even in Ji Province. Now, Yun Jian was driving her beloved car, the LaFerrari sports car, to F city of G province. The back of the sports car could seat people as well, so it was not a problem for Su Zetian and Qingyu to sit inside. She chose to drive her beloved car, the LaFerrari, to F city of G province to attend the tea party because despite its exquisite appearance, it was actually modified by Yun Jian. She had already modified the sports car and installed all kinds of bulletproof devices inside. In other words, even if an accident were to happen, it would be useless even if someone were to shoot at her with a pistol or a sniper rifle from behind. G province was far away. Even when Yun Jian raced and maintained a speed of more than 200 km per hour on the distant highway, it still took her 6 hours to reach her destination. G province's security was not as good as Zhe province's, hence the mafia's development was much more advanced than Zhe province's. Yun Jian drove into F city of G province quickly and was now driving to the tea party's destination. F city of G province, the location of the mafia tea party. There were many cars coming and going, but most of them were escorted by other cars. Those who alighted from the cars, who were the mafia bosses, entered the venue one after another. Compared to the other mafia bosses' grand entrance, or the mafia bosses who were escorted by dozens of black-clad bodyguards, a red super limited edition Ferrari sports car was particularly eye-catching. Once the red super limited edition Ferrari drove into the venue, it attracted a lot of attention. Everyone's gaze was on the car that entered alone without any escort. As the Ferrari drove into the garage slowly, a pair of flat-bottomed white sneakers were the first to be seen in the car. Then, a young girl in her 16 years old, with a very delicate appearance and a shoulder bag on her shoulder, jumped out of the driver's seat. A young girl? Everyone's attention was taken aback. On this kind of day where the leaders of the underworld gathered, there was actually a 16-year-old little kid running here? Io, Sister Jian, I've been sitting in the back seat for 6 whole hours. My waist is sore. Following that, everyone heard another young girl's grumbling voice. Following that, the girl appeared from the place where the outstanding young girl with a shoulder bag on her shoulder had come out from. Another girl of about 15 or 16 years of age. If they did not know that this was a mafia gathering place where all the mafia bosses gathered, they would have thought that this was an amusement park. Or was one of the mafia bosses really one of the 2 girls in front of them? That was impossible, was it? It's here. The door to the front passenger seat of the Ferrari opened and a middle-aged man alighted. When they saw the middle-aged man, the expressions of the people around him relaxed slightly. Chapter 331. After all, how could a young girl be the boss of a mafia? Letting an underage girl manage an entire mafia? This was not a game. Therefore, everyone's thoughts were the same. In spite of it, everyone took a second look at Yun Jian and the other 2 girls. Everyone assumed that Su Zetian was the boss of this mafia and that Yun Jian and Qingyu were his fighters. But even so, it was enough to surprise people. As a mafia boss, were you planning to embarrass yourself by bringing 2 young girls to this national mafia tea party? Everyone knew that the purpose of this tea party was to have a friendly competition between all the experts of the gangs. To put it bluntly, it was a competition to see whose mafia members were more powerful. The fighters brought by the mafia were all brawny and strong men. Look at Yun Jian and the other 2 girls. Su Zetian, who was assumed to be the mafia boss, stood in front while Yun Jian and Qingyu stood beside him. Outsiders would think that Yun Jian and Qingyu were incompetent girls just by looking at them. Were they here for a competition? Were they sure they were not here to travel with their children? The outsiders watched as Yun Jian led Su Zetian and Qingyu into the tea party. When they reached the entrance, there was a person doing a special registration. Which district and which gang? The person doing the registration at the door didn't even raise his head as he asked. Zhe province's Longmen City, Falcon Hall. Yun Jian's sweet, girlish voice made the person look up. After he was done, he told Yun Jian and the other 2 girls, "You may go in." As he spoke, the person watched Yun Jian and the other 2 girls enter the venue. He rubbed his nose and could not help sighing deeply. Do kids nowadays attend places like this? Sigh, kids these days mature early indeed. Yun Jian and the other two girls had already entered the venue of the Mafia Tea Party. The scale of this national Mafia Tea Party was extraordinarily large. Naturally, it had an aura. The Green Tiger Gang was the host of the Tea Party and the #1 gang in Ji Province. Naturally, they had to put on a strong front. Among the gangs, the original Dragon Head Gang, which was now known as Falcon Hall, really wasn't outstanding. Other than Yun Jian and Qin Yu, who attracted a lot of attention, even Su Zetian, who was with them, received a lot of attention. Sister Jian, it's my first time attending a national mafia gathering like this, Qin Yu said lazily as she picked a snack from the dishes on the table and munched on it. When Qin Yu followed Yun Jian in her past life, the banquets she attended were no smaller than this tea party. Therefore, in the face of a tea party of this scale, he was naturally at ease. Yun Jian hummed in reply, crossing her arms and standing where she was nonchalantly. She wore a close-fitting thermal bra and a down jacket today. If one only looked at Yun Jian's current appearance and her slender figure that was wrapped in the down jacket, she was very attention-grabbing. Qin Yu's baby face attracted a lot of attention as well. Now that she was munching on a grape, she commented cheerfully, "This tea party can't be compared to the banquets in the past, but the snacks taste pretty good." As she spoke, Qin Yu picked up a grape and passed it to Yun Jian. "Here, Sister Jian, try it. It's delicious." Yun Jian was not haughty. She took the grape and peeled off the skin when it entered her mouth before swallowing it. After a moment, Yun Jian replied, "It's not bad." Just as the three of them were standing there for a long time, with no one paying any attention to them, a voice suddenly sounded in front of them. It was not directed at Yun Jian and Qin Yu, but it was directed at Su Zetian. Instead, he openly mocked Su Zetian. "Hee, look, isn't this the former boss of Dragon Head Gang? Ah pooey, I mean, the former boss of Falcon Hall? TSK, TSK, TSK. How are you able to show up here?" Chapter 332. The bald man in his 30s stared at Yun Jian and Qin Yu, who were not too far away from Su Zetian, and guffawed as if he had suddenly caught something hilarious. After a pause, the bald man spoke to Su Zetian arrogantly, "Ha ha ha. It's only been a few days and you've brought 2 little girls to this tea party. Su Zetian, are you kidding me?" As he spoke, the bald man's expression turned arrogant. "Right, where's the legendary new boss of Falcon Hall, slaying Luo? TSK, TSK, I heard she's a woman too." It was a blatant provocation. One had to admit that the bald man was here to pick a fight. "Su Linbua, are you done?" Su Zetian could not hold it in anymore. He finally lost it when Yun Jian did not say anything and roared back at the bald man. The bald man called Su Linbua picked his nose. He picked out a pile of booger from his nostrils and played with it twice between his fingers before flicking it off. He then pointed his nose at Su Zetian and said in an imposing manner, "What? Oh, I know. Su Zetian, you're not the boss now. Could it be that Falcon Hall's new boss, slaying Luo, doesn't dare to show up? Huh, but that's true. I heard slaying Luo is a woman. How would a woman dare to come to the territory where we men gather?" Su Linbua looked smug. Su Linbua was obviously acquainted with Su Zetian. Reality also proved that Su Linbua and Su Zetian had a deep connection. Su Zetian used to be the boss of Je Province's Longmen City, but Je Province had more than one city. There was a city near Longmen City called Yuzhou City, and Su Linbua was the boss of Yuzhou City. The two big bosses in the neighboring districts also had a great relationship with each other. Moreover, Su Linbua and Su Zetian had a huge conflict because of some things back then. Today was another national tea party. When Su Linbua saw Su Zetian, he naturally knew that he was no longer the boss of Falcon Hall. Enemies were usually enraged when they met, so Su Linbua had to come over and taunt him before he would let it go. After all, they were not on good terms back then. How bad was it? The two gangs were almost about to have a cross-city fight. But in the end, they didn't fight it out. Just as Su Linbua was feeling smug and completely ignored Yun Jian and Qin Yu, a voice suddenly rang out. The young lady's clear and refined voice was even more eye-catching in this noisy tea party. Who said I didn't dare to come? Am I not here now? Yun Jian suddenly interrupted, but her sudden admission caught Su Linbo, who had been complacent and even a little smug, off guard. Since Yun Jian had answered Su Linbo's question, did it mean that she was the current boss of Falcon Hall, the woman named Slaying Luo? No matter how bad Falcon Hall was, it was still the top mafia group in Longmen City, a legitimate mafia group with thousands of members. Su Linbo and the others were already surprised when they heard that the original Dragon Head gang had been taken over by a young woman named Luo Sha. After all, how could a gang be taken over by a woman? Many people would think that a woman would take over a gang and become the boss. A gang boss was a position that belonged to men. The fact that Falcon Hall was taken over by a woman was already shocking enough. More importantly, this woman named Rakshasa was actually this young girl who didn't even look 18 years old. What a joke. Was there a mistake? In fact, Su Linbo had not even looked at Yun Jian and Qin Yu in the eye since the beginning. No matter how he looked at them, Yun Jian and Qin Yu, one of them was delicate and pretty while the other had a baby face that was purely childish. They looked like two skinny and weak girls no matter how he looked at them. In order to become the boss of a gang, the most important thing was to have strength. With strength, the brothers in the gang would listen to your orders and follow you wholeheartedly. Yun Jian and Qin Yu, on the other hand, were hardly convincing. What? You're saying that you're the new boss of Falcon Hall, the woman named Slaying Luo? Su Linbo cried out in shock. His shout immediately attracted the attention of the people in the surrounding circle. In fact, it was not that there were no female bosses in modern society, but they were few and far between. In spite of this, it was unheard of for an underage girl to be the boss. It had never happened since ancient times. Therefore, the crowd who had been paying attention to the situation when Yun Jian and Qin Yu entered looked over when they heard Su Linbo's exclamation. Chapter 333. Everyone's gaze was trained on Yun Jian, waiting for her answer. Falcon Hall's boss was a woman? The news was too shocking. Yun Jian, however, smirked and replied to Su Linbo's question, why? Don't I look like one? Once the group heard Yun Jian's reply, they could not help grumbling inwardly, not only do you not look like one, you don't look alike at all, okay? Su Linbo gulped and stared at Yun Jian for another 2 seconds before he snapped out of it. Humph. Since he had said confidently that Yun Jian, Falcon Hall's boss, was not present, Su Linbo's mood was more or less affected as he scoffed. Although Yun Jian had no grudge against him, Su Linbo and Su Zetian had a deep grudge. Now that Yun Jian had taken over Falcon Hall, Su Linbo hated Yun Jian as well. Hence, Su Linbo continued quickly, casting a sidelong glance at Yun Jian as he spoke. Humph, ignorant brat. As he spoke, Su Linbo's gaze turned to Su Zetian again, his words laced with indescribable malice. Ha, Su Zetian, oh Su Zetian, you're amazing too. Aren't you arrogant? Now, you've handed your gang to an underage brat. Humph, Su Linbo, shall open my eyes wide and see how long Falcon Hall can last. He was mocking Yun Jian in disguise, hinting that Falcon Hall would fall one day after Yun Jian took over. Su Zetian was not a person who would rage at the slightest provocation, but anyone who heard it would not be able to tolerate it. Just as he was about to retort, however, Yun Jian tugged at the corner of his shirt. Sister Jian, what are you doing? Su Zetian's gaze was locked as he asked in bewilderment at Yun Jian's action. Yun Jian did not look at Su Zetian nor did she answer him. Her gaze was trained on Su Linbo, the murderous intent in her eyes blatant. Open your dog eyes and see how much stronger the gang I lead will be compared to a villain like you who speaks behind others' backs. She could crush a despicable person like Su Linbo with one hand. She was the king of secret agents who had made it to where she was now by stepping on the corpses of people who were known as powerhouses. Yun Jian did not think much of Su Linbo even if he was a European arms tycoon, let alone a city-level boss in Jia province. The girl's domineering words echoed throughout the place. For a time, countless famous people were stunned on the spot. Whether Yun Jian was capable or not, she was at least holding the fort now. Su Linhua felt a little guilty from Yun Jian's words, especially when he met Yun Jian's gaze. The murderous intent in Yun Jian's eyes made him shudder. In spite of it, Su Linhua was forced to retort Yun Jian due to his pride. "Humph, I'll be waiting." As he spoke, Su Linhua walked away disgruntledly since he could not win back his pride. As a result, the uproar that was caused just now was instantly dispelled. "Who's that? So annoying." Qin Yu leaned against a long table next to Yun Jian and spoke cheerfully, peeling another grape and chewing it before swallowing it. "He's Su Linhua, the boss of the so-called world's best gang in the neighboring city of Longmen City," Su Zetian explained from the side. "Pfft, world's best gang. I think he's more like the last gang. How dare he challenge Sister Jian? He'll be in for it later." Qin Yu patted the sticky grape juice off her hands and went straight to Yun Jian. "Huh?" Su Zetian did not understand and asked Qin Yu in confusion. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Others might not understand Qin Yu's words, but she did. After a while, a low male voice suddenly screamed from the crowd, "Hey, hey! What's going on? Ah, it's so itchy. So itchy. Why is my body so itchy all of a sudden? What's going on? It's so itchy. So itchy." Chapter 334. Perhaps no one else saw what happened just now. Yun Jian, on the other hand, saw everything clearly and understood what happened over there. Qin Yu's poisoning was done stealthily, so Yun Jian was not surprised. When Su Linhua was near them, Qin Yu had poisoned him without a sound. It was a poison that made a person itch so much that they wanted to scratch themselves all over. If there was no antidote, they might even peel off a layer of their skin. Other than Yun Jian, the others did not see what happened just now because Qin Yu's poisoning speed was too fast for the naked eye to see. How could Qin Yu, nicknamed Lady Poison, be a weakling? Of course, Yun Jian could see that Qin Yu had poisoned her. Humph, who asked him to be so smug just now? How dare he slander my sister Jian? He should have a taste of his own medicine. Qin Yu looked at where Su Linhua was acting up and pouted before grabbing a small tomato from the long table to stuff it into her mouth and chew. Su Zetian heard Qin Yu's grumbling as well and could not help turning to look at Qin Yu from the corner of Yun Jian's head. He had witnessed Yun Jian's skills before. Yun Jian was fast, accurate, and ruthless. Not long after, Su Linhua began to scratch his body. Then, Su Linhua's reaction became more and more intense. In the end, he actually fell to the ground and started rolling. Combined with Qin Yu's grumbling, Su Zetian could not help but be surprised. Could Su Linhua's reaction be Qin Yu's doing? Su Zetian had thought that Qin Yu was just a young girl who followed Yun Jian around and did not even consider her capabilities. Now, Su Zetian was even more surprised. It turned out that not only was Yun Jian skilled, the girl she brought along was extraordinarily skilled as well. Su Zetian had been staring at Su Linhua without blinking earlier. He had watched Su Linhua walk away and did not even see Qin Yu make a move all this while. Yet, the poison had already reached Su Linhua. What level was this? Let's go check it out over there. Yun Jian's gaze was nonchalant. She exuded a nonchalant aura, but her clear eyes and delicate features exuded an exquisite and unparalleled beauty. She was looking in a direction and urged Su Zetian and Qin Yu to go with her. Su Zetian grew solemn when he heard that Yun Jian wanted to go over there. From what he could tell, there must be a reason behind Yun Jian's words. "Heh, Sister Jian, you found this." Qin Yu's voice came again. What did she find? Su Zetian followed Yun Jian went over solemnly, thinking that Yun Jian must have discovered something important. It was because she gave off the impression that she was a person who was calm and collected even in the face of major events. When he followed Yun Jian to a long dining table with a variety of delicacies, however, he saw Yun Jian reaching out to take a huge crab from the table. She then peeled the crab and dipped it in the soy sauce on the table before eating it bite by bite. Su Zetian, who thought that Yun Jian had found something important, was dumbfounded. It turned out that Yun Jian had brought them here just to eat this huge crab. Qing Yu's cheeky face could not help breaking into a smile. She leaned on the table and turned to ask Yun Jian, "Sister Jian, this tea party doesn't look like much, but the food is pretty good." Yun Jian nodded and swallowed the last mouthful of fatty crab meat before commenting, "This crab is delicious." Yun Jian loved crabs. She loved all kinds of seafood. Qing Yu was aware of this, which was why she said what she said just now. Su Zetian, who was standing to the side, gulped. He was suddenly speechless. Chapter 335. As for Su Linbua, he had been rolling around on the ground for quite a while after Yun Jian had finished eating an entire crab. Due to Su Linbua's ruckus, some of the people who were in charge of maintaining order at the tea party stepped in and carried Su Linbua to the hospital. On Su Linbua's exposed skin, there were many dense red pustules growing out of it. "He's allergic, isn't he? What bad luck." Someone could not help shouting. Su Linbua's reaction did seem like an allergic reaction, so everyone assumed that it was just an allergic reaction. However, Su Linbua's reaction was quite frightening, so they had no choice but to carry him to the hospital. After that, the tea party officially began. Su Linbua's abnormal reaction did not attract much attention. Instead, outside the tea party venue, a man in his 30s with thick brows and a rather handsome appearance was escorted in by a group of more than 10 bodyguards, attracting the attention of the crowd. This rather good-looking man was the organizer of the tea party for all the gangs in the country, the boss of Ji Province's famous Green Tiger gang, Long Yuqing. Currently, Long Yuqing was being escorted into the venue by a group of bodyguards. At that time, a large group of gang leaders from all over the country rushed forward and took the opportunity to curry favor with them. Green Tiger Gang was not only the top gang in Ji Province, but it was also the leading gang in the northern region of the country. In other words, the boss of the northern region of the country was Green Tiger Gang. Therefore, Green Tiger Gang's boss, Long Yuqing, attracted everyone's attention as soon as he appeared. In addition, Long Yuqing was not only the boss of Green Tiger Gang in everyone's eyes, but he was also young and promising. He was only 31 years old this year and was quite good-looking. He could be considered handsome. Many of the gang bosses had the intention of using their daughters to get close to Long Yuqing. If he could climb into Long Yuqing's bed, that would be the best. But if he couldn't, it would be good even if it was a stroke of good fortune. For a moment, there was no one else other than Yun Jian, Qing Yu, and Su Zetian who remained where they were. Long Yuqing glanced around and was stunned when his gaze landed on Yun Jian and the rest. There was actually such an exquisite beauty in this world. Moreover, all the people present at the tea party were either the leaders of the various major gangs or the fighters of the gang leaders. They were all high-ranking members of the gangs. Yun Jian and Qing Yu's presence was rather conspicuous. When Long Yuqing saw that Yun Jian was standing in the same spot and did not come forward to flatter him, his curiosity was piqued. Curiosity killed the cat. At this time, Long Yuqing pushed through the crowd and walked towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian was standing in the same spot. Her eyes were calm, but she could feel Long Yuqing walking towards her. "This beautiful lady, how should I address you?" Long Yuqing asked as he stood in front of Yun Jian, sizing her up with interest amidst the crowd's support and envy. Yun Jian only raised her head to glance at Long Yuqing before withdrawing her gaze. She faintly spat out 2 words, "Rakshasa." Long Yuqing was even more surprised when he saw Yun Jian looking down and ignoring him after a glance. Of all the people who came here, which one of them wasn't anxious to curry favor with him? She was really special. "May I know which gang you're from then?" Long Yuqing's voice sounded as loud as he could to make the women present scream. However, Yun Jian did not feel anything. She did not even bother to reply to Long Yuqing. "We're from Ji Province's Falcon Hall." Su Zetian, on the other hand, was a little scared when Yun Jian did not reply to Long Yuqing, so he replied on her behalf. "Huh, interesting." Long Yuqing narrowed his eyes and stared at Yun Jian with interest. His eyes were gleaming, but he turned to leave when Yun Jian ignored him again. Chapter 336. Long Youqing's appearance did not fluster Yunjian at all. It was Su Zetian who panicked as he stood beside Yunjian and looked at her worriedly. "Sister Jian, that's Green Tiger Gang's boss, Long Youqing. He's young but he's the boss of the biggest gang in the north. Rumor has it that he's ruthless. Nothing he sets his sights on has ever escaped. He probably had his eyes on you just now. Sister Jian, why don't we leave earlier?" The reason why the other gangs were so afraid of the Green Tiger Gang and wanted to get close to it was because it was a gang with absolute capability. In the early years, when numerous gangs of various sizes were fighting for supremacy in the north, the Green Tiger Gang had already stood out. It had hundreds of years of history and a strong foundation. It was rumored that its wealth could rival a country's. Of course, it was just a metaphor. It did not mean that the Green Tiger Gang was really that powerful. However, Su Zetian had heard that Long Youqing was young, only 31 years old, but he was extremely ruthless in his methods. There was another rumor about Long Youqing. It was said that no one he set his sights on, be it a woman or a man, could escape from his clutches. Su Zetian was at most the boss of a small Longmen city back then. He had never thought of going up against the most powerful gang in the north, Green Tiger Gang. This was something that was completely impossible to win. What Long Youqing said just now meant that he had his eyes on Yunjian. Therefore, the only way Su Zetian could think of was to run. Run? Do you think I'm the kind of person who would run away from a battle? Yunjian chuckled at Su Zetian's words and tucked a handful of hair behind her ear as she said with pursed lips. Qingyu, who was standing aside, chuckled. In contrast to Su Zetian's worries, Qingyu was unfazed. In spite of it, there was a reason for her to run. If Yunjian was really that capable, if she was only the boss of a mere Falcon Hall and caught the attention of Green Tiger Gang's boss, Long Youqing, the biggest gang in the north, it was possible for her to run away immediately. It was a pity that Yunjian was not like that. The word escape had never appeared in her dictionary. The tea party lasted for a while. During this time, all the bosses present, as well as the higher-ups who came to participate in the tea party, only drank tea, tasted the food, and tasted the desserts. It wasn't until one of the hosts from the Green Tiger Gang stepped forward to host the event that the peaceful atmosphere was broken. "Everyone, please be quiet. Everyone here is a gang leader from all over the country, as well as the higher-ups of the various gangs. First of all, I would like to welcome you. Secondly, according to tradition, every year during the tea party in the underworld, there will be a ranking of the strength of all the major sections. Therefore, I would like to ask all the experts of the sects to make preparations. In a while, the friendly competition between the sects will begin. Everyone, please have the elites from your sects come to the arena." The Green Tiger Gang basically invited all the gangs in the country to a tea party every year. At the same time, they would also hold a ranking of the gang's strength. In other words, the leaders of the various gangs would bring the strongest person in their gang to participate in this tea party. Furthermore, during the competition, the strongest person among them would participate in the competition. Of course, at this time, the strongest person in the gang would represent their own gang. The first round of the competition will be a competition of marksmanship. Everyone, please gather in the backyard of the tea party. After the host finished speaking, he led the crowd to the backyard of the tea house. "Let's go too," Yunjian turned to say to Su Zetian and Qingyu. The three of them then followed the crowd to the backyard of the tea house. Chapter 337. Yunjian nodded in agreement. Qingyu's poison skill was astounding, but her marksmanship was not the best. However, in a gang tea party like this, no matter how bad her marksmanship was, she would still be one of the best among the group. Su Zetian did not say anything. He knew that Yunjian must have her reasons for agreeing. Yunjian and the other two girls were standing in the corner, but they were also the most conspicuous. Long Youqing's conversation with Yunjian earlier had attracted the attention of many people present. Yunjian and the other two girls were there as well. In addition, they had heard that Yunjian was Falcon Hall's boss, so they were even more curious about who they would send for the competition. Falcon Hall will probably send that middle-aged man who looks more muscular to compete. After all, the two girls don't look convincing at all. Moreover, the first round is a marksmanship competition. They probably haven't even touched a gun before, have they? Some people could not help discussing. I think it'll be that middle-aged man too. Among the trio, there were two girls and Su Zetian was the only one who was older and looked more robust, so everyone thought that he would be the one to represent Falcon Hall in the competition. Beautiful, we meet again as expected. TSK. Do you want me to lend you a hand? I'll send a subordinate to you. Long Yucheng, who had left earlier, came to the backyard of the tea house. He looked at Yun Jian and asked with a suggestive gaze. Qingyu, go over. Yun Jian ignored Long Yucheng. She did not even look at him as she turned to speak to Qingyu. Qingyu turned and walked toward the place where the powerhouses from various gangs were gathered after listening to Yun Jian. Qingyu looked sweet and adorable with a delicate baby face. However, when Qingyu walked over, someone finally couldn't help but shout, F***CK, it can't be. This is really sending little girls to compete in spear skills? Someone immediately replied, Hee, I think the boss of Falcon Hall, slaying Luo, knows that there's no one in his gang, so he sent a little girl up. Even if he loses this round, it won't be embarrassing for him in the future. Looks like the boss of Falcon Hall isn't that great after all. How boring. Some of the people who were watching the show had already started chatting with relish. The highlight of the annual tea party was the time when the various sects would compete against each other to rank their strength. It was also the time when people were most excited about it. TSK, beauty, you heard it yourself, right? Wasn't it nonsense to send a little girl to shoot a gun? I said that I would send a subordinate to help you out of the goodness of my heart. Why don't you appreciate it? Long Yucheng stood not far from Yun Jian and couldn't help but whisper. All in all, his words were filled with doubts about the azure glaze spear technique. However, before Long Yucheng could finish his sentence, a series of gunshots rang out from the arena. Bang, bang, bang. 10 consecutive gunshots rang out as Qingyu raised her gun and aimed at the target before she started firing. 10 shots, each one in the ring, hitting the target 10 times. Long Yucheng shut his mouth at once. Those who were gossiping about Yun Jian and her companions just now kept their mouths shut as well. On the other side, Qingyu ran back after firing her 10 shots. When she came to Yun Jian, she said joyfully, Sister Jian, I'm done, but the target is so close. It's really easy. Yun Jian nodded faintly without much reaction. She looked as if everything was within her expectations. After that, each gang's experts fired their 10 shots and the person in charge of registration was done as well. At this time, the host stood on the competition stage again and used his not-so-pleasant voice to continue speaking, cough cough. Everyone, the experts of the gangs have performed very well. Now, we will immediately begin the second round of the competition. This round will be a competition of martial arts. Taekwondo, Wushu, Sanda, whatever martial arts you can use them all. Chapter 338. Qingyu waved her hand when she heard that this round was a martial arts competition. She turned to Yun Jian and said with a press of dry lips, Sister Jian, I can't compete in martial arts. Qingyu was a poison expert and her marksmanship was decent as well, but she could only fend off attacks from high-level secret agents or assassins when it came to martial arts. Of course, she could only fend off attacks from the side. Qingyu had never been good at martial arts competitions where one's fist was harder. A lot of people were listening intently to Yun Jian and her companions' movements. Yun Jian and her companions were too eye-catching. Moreover, even Green Tiger Gang's boss, Long Yucheng, seemed to be interested in Yun Jian. In addition, Qingyu's marksmanship that was looked down upon by a bunch of people just now was astounding. Qingyu was not the only one who had hit the bullseye just now. Those who represented their gangs in the competition were all formidable characters. None of them were weak. Compared to them, however, Qingyu stood out because of her age. For a young girl who was only in her teens to have such powerful spear skills, it was really amazing. In spite of it, everyone could not help gasping when they heard Qin Yu say that she was not good at martial arts. God was fair. Qin Yu's marksmanship was good, but her ability was lacking. What these people did not know was that even if Qin Yu's ability was lacking, she had 1,000 ways to poison anyone present to death unknowingly. Yun Jian nodded faintly. The crowd started guessing again who Falcon Hall's woman, slaying Luo, would send to compete this time. It should be that middle-aged man this time. I don't think it's anyone else other than him. There's only 3 of them here. She can't possibly be the one to show up. Someone said, looking at Yun Jian. Beauty, do you dare to make a bet with me? Long Yuqing could not help asking as he looked at Yun Jian. What's the bet? Yun Jian grinned and replied to Long Yuqing. If Falcon Hall ranks within the top 10 of all the sects in this martial arts competition, then I'll agree to any of your conditions. But if you can't get into the top 10, you can be my girlfriend. What do you think? Long Yuqing's words were very unreasonable. Not to mention that Long Yuqing was already 31 years old, which was a full generation older than Yun Jian. However, Long Yuqing felt that the first time he saw Yun Jian, he felt that she was very attractive and special. That was why his interest was piqued and he made such a suggestion. In Long Yuqing's mind, there were only 3 of them, including Yun Jian. Now that Qin Yu was not participating in the competition, and Su Zetian did not look particularly strong either. His request was for Falcon Hall to be ranked within the top 10 among all the sects present in the martial arts competition. It was not an easy task. There might be an exception in the shooting competition just now, but it was not so easy to win in a martial arts competition. Moreover, there were more than 100 people from all the sects present. It was not easy to get into the top 10 among all the sects present. In the past, the first place always belonged to Green Tiger Gang. As for the other sects, they were not weak either. Falcon Hall's predecessor was Dragon Head Gang. Long Yuqing had some impression of Dragon Head Gang. He vaguely remembered that Dragon Head Gang had always ranked below the top 100 in the past years. That was why Long Yuqing proposed the bet with Yun Jian so boldly. Even if Dragon Head Gang, which was the current Falcon Hall, improved greatly, could they get into the top 10 from the top 100? Under everyone's gaze, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile as she agreed to Long Yuqing's bet. Sure. Sister Jian, you can't do this. Su Zetian called out anxiously from the side. I know what to do, Yun Jian replied and stood up to make her way to the arena. Due to Qin Yu's appearance just now, Yun Jian's appearance was no longer a surprise to the people present. Once they were in the arena, the opponents were decided according to the order of drawing lots. Yun Jian drew a lot and went up to the arena, ready to fight. A bulky man came up from the opposite side of the arena. It was obvious that this person was her opponent. At this time, someone saw the tall and sturdy man and immediately shouted in surprise. Chapter 339. What do you mean it said? It's true. Ting Shi is the second in command of the Green Tiger Gang. His ability is nothing to scoff at. Did you guys know that? Ting Shi has always represented the Green Tiger Gang and won first place in the past martial arts competitions. Is this for real? He's that good? Do you think he's bluffing? The group of people who were watching the show commented enthusiastically. The friendly competition between the major guilds was, in fact, just sending the strongest person in their own gang to participate. However, the strongest person in the gang represented the entire gang behind him. However, a single powerhouse could be compared to countless higher-ups. Therefore, everyone valued this friendly competition. After all, whichever gang sent this person to win first place would mean that the gang was very powerful. The crowd was enjoying the show while Su Zetian wore a bitter expression on his face. Compared to Su Zetian, Qin Yu was sitting on a bench lazily, munching on the sunflower seeds that she used to entertain the guests. Long Yuqing, on the other hand, sat on the highest seat. He narrowed his eyes, certain that Yun Jian would lose. At the same time, Yun Jian, who was thought to lose for sure, stood in the ring. She glanced sideways at her opponent, the burly Ting Shi, who was about 193 meters tall. The difference between Ting Shi's height and Yun Jian, who was about 1.6 meters tall, was huge. Under such circumstances, no one thought that Yun Jian could win the competition. That included Su Zetian. Although Yun Jian had defeated Shiniji, who almost made it into the international fighting tournament, Ting Shi was not on the same level as Shiniji back then. Ting Shi was originally a retired Special Forces soldier. When he was a Special Forces soldier, he had even killed a female secret agent from an international underground organization with his bare hands. Therefore, Su Zetian thought that no matter how powerful Yun Jian was, she was only a little girl after all. Could she really defeat Ting Shi, who had killed the female secret agents from the underground organization, who killed without batting an eyelid? You want to fight me? Soaring Snake frowned when he saw that his opponent was Yun Jian. It wasn't that Ting Shi looked down on Yun Jian, but as a veteran Special Forces soldier, he felt helpless when he was asked to fight this young girl who was not even an adult yet. Yes. Yun Jian looked straight at the Soaring Snake. She was not afraid in the face of danger. When the audience saw this, they all began to cheer. However, they all cheered for Soaring Snake. Soaring Snake. Defeat her and send her home to drink milk. How dare you come here and ask for a beating? I don't hit children. Soaring Snake, on the other hand, stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds. After he finished speaking in front of everyone, he turned around to leave the arena. You're not fighting anymore? It hasn't even started yet. Someone couldn't help but voice out in disappointment. Just as Soaring Snake was about to walk out of the arena, the girl's clear and melodious voice came from behind him. What a pity. I specialize in fighting big friends. She compared him to a big friend? When Soaring Snake heard Yun Jian's words, he was stunned. When he turned around, he saw a figure so fast that it was impossible to see with the naked eye rushing towards him. In the next second, the figure kicked Soaring Snake in the abdomen. Soaring Snake could clearly feel himself being kicked a few meters away. His chest was burning as he fell outside the arena. That speed was indescribable with words. In the past, he had killed a female secret agent from an international underground organization. That secret agent's killing method was mysteriously similar to the kick he had received. Chapter 340. Ting Shi lost before the fight even started? The audience below was dumbfounded. However, many of them were Ting Shi's fans. In their eyes, Yun Jian's move was a sneak attack. Hence, someone stood up from his seat and shouted at Yun Jian, "Little girl, that was a sneak attack. It doesn't count. If Ting Shi was serious, you'd probably be sent home to drink milk." Some people also stood up and spoke up for Ting Shi. They even complained about Yun Jian. That's right. You're so young, yet you're using a sneak attack. How shameless. Get lost. Get lost. In an instant, the number of people cursing Yun Jian increased greatly. Long Yuqing, who was sitting below, had already sensed that something was wrong when Yun Jian made her move. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Yun Jian as if he wanted to see through her. Yun Jian, who was slandered by the crowd, was unmoved. She narrowed her eyes and looked at Ting Shi, who was lying on the ground. Suddenly, she hooked her pinky and said with a glimmer in her eyes, "If you're not convinced, you can fight me fair and square." Yun Jian didn't intend to win with a sneak attack. Reality proved that if she didn't make the first move, with Ting Shi's character, he would probably leave. Ting Shi, who was lying on the ground, looked at Yun Jian and stopped looking at her with contempt. Yun Jian didn't use too much strength in her kick. Even so, it was enough to hurt Ting Shi, but it didn't hurt his muscles or bones. Ting Shi patted the dust off and stood up from the ground. He frowned and looked at Yun Jian for 2 seconds. After a while, his face darkened again. Under everyone's gaze, he said to Yun Jian, "I admit defeat." Ting Shi was a smart person. He was able to become the second in command of the Green Tiger Gang and had worked for Long Yuqing for so many years. He definitely had some tricks up his sleeve. Yun Jian's kick just now might have looked like a sneak attack to others, but only he knew. Even if Soaring Snake hadn't been ambushed and had fought Yun Jian head-on, the result would have been the same. He would have been sent flying with a kick. Ting Shi was the champion of the martial arts competition over the years. It could be said that as long as he admitted defeat, Yun Jian would have a 100% chance of winning even if she fought with others later on. After all, Yun Jian's kick just now was not for show. No one dared to underestimate Yun Jian anymore. They also knew that since Yun Jian dared to come on stage, she must have some skills. However, Ting Shi's admission of defeat still shocked everyone. However, compared to Soaring Snake's surrender, Long Youqing's expression was the ugliest. Long Youqing was the first to stand up. As the leader of the Green Tiger Gang, he slammed the table and ordered Soaring Snake, "How can a member of the Green Tiger Gang be such a coward?" Long Youqing was afraid that if Ting Shi admitted defeat, Yun Jian might really make it to the top 10. He was still waiting for Yun Jian to fulfill her promise after she lost. Ting Shi remained unmoved after hearing Long Youqing's words. If he could win, why would he admit defeat? However, even though he knew that he couldn't beat his opponent, Ting Shi wasn't so stupid as to rush to his death. "Boss, I'm not a coward. I really can't beat her. That kick just now didn't seem special, but the way she attacked was similar to the female international secret agent I killed years ago. No, it was even better. Back then, when I killed that female international underground agent, I was also covered in wounds and on the verge of death. I almost died. That's why I can't beat her in this round. That's why I admitted defeat." Ting Shi's words pierced everyone's hearts. Such a high evaluation caused huge waves in everyone's hearts. Chapter 341. The female international secret agent that Ting Shi had killed was an elite with decent skills. It was said that she could be ranked in the top 50 of the secret agent ranking. International was a global concept. To be able to be ranked in the top 50 of the assassin or secret agent ranking was already quite powerful. After all, there were many assassins or secret agents in the world. As for the top 10 assassins or secret agents in the international assassin or secret agent ranking, they were simply freaks that crawled out from a pile of dead people. Among the top 20 assassins or secret agents, which one of them was not a big devil with blood on their hands? These 20 people were people that no one present would even think about. After all, these people were at the top of the world, and they did not have the life to meet them. Therefore, Ting Shi, who had killed the female international agent, had won the respect of the strong in everyone's hearts. Today, however, Ting Shi, who claimed to be a powerhouse, was saying that Yun Jian was more skillful than the female agent whom he had barely managed to kill back then. Under such circumstances, who would dare to fight with Yun Jian? However, if the people present knew that Yun Jian was the strongest among the 20 big devils, they would probably be scared witless. As for whether I, Ting Shi, am a coward or not, boss, I'm not a coward. However, I'm not a suicidal person either. Therefore, I admit that I'm not as good as you in this martial arts competition. Ting Shi said this to Long Youqing, then turned around and left the arena, walking toward the guest seats. Long Youqing was shocked by Ting Shi's words, but he immediately revealed a trace of viciousness on his face. Ahem, since Ting Shi admitted defeat, then it's Luosha's victory. The host continued to preside over the event. In this martial arts competition, Yun Jian defeated Ting Shi, but she still had to fight with the other masters of the gang. However, because of Ting Shi's precedent, the other people who met Yun Jian all admitted defeat with tears in their eyes. What a joke! How would they dare to fight a woman that even Ting Shi could not defeat? Wouldn't that be courting death? Therefore, Yun Jian did not even need to fight again to secure the first place in the martial arts competition. Winning first place in the martial arts competition also meant that Falcon Hall had surpassed the Green Tiger Gang this year and became the overall champion of this tea party competition. First place. Due to Qin Yu's outstanding marksmanship in the first round and Yun Jian's first place in this round, the overall champion was Falcon Hall. The result shocked everyone present, and Long Youqing's expression darkened further. Long Youqing had planned for Yun Jian's Falcon Hall never to enter the top 10, that was why he made the bet. But now? Her Falcon Hall had actually replaced her Green Tiger gang and won first place in this tea party competition. Yun Jian, who had not even made a move, returned to her seat. She was not in a hurry to sit down but stared at Long Yuqing with her pretty eyes and asked, "I wonder if the bet I made with Boss Long earlier still stands?" Long Yuqing's expression darkened under everyone's watchful eyes. He had lost face because of a woman. She, on the other hand, was only the boss of a city-level gang. How dare she threaten him again and again? Reality proved that Long Yuqing did not plan to fulfill his promise. Chapter 342. Although Long Yuqing was the boss of the Green Tiger gang, and he was quite good-looking, at least his facial features could be considered decent. But how many of the gang members who could survive in the black market were honest and upright? It was true that gangsters were loyal, but it did not apply to Long Yuqing. Su Zetian was afraid of Long Yuqing from the start because this was Long Yuqing's territory. More importantly, Long Yuqing did not have a good reputation among the big gangs. Some people said that he changed his attitude faster than flipping a book. Moreover, as mentioned earlier, there was nothing that Long Yuqing could not get if he wanted it. As for Long Yuqing's sudden change in attitude, everyone present could not wait to avoid it. Yun Jian, the person in question, was surrounded by Long Yuqing's gang of close to 100 men. However, she looked normal and did not look surprised at all. Even Long Yuqing's sudden change in attitude seemed to be within her expectations. Long Yuqing was already on his feet now. He went to Yun Jian and looked down at her from above. After 2 seconds of silence, he spoke to Yun Jian. "Hee, you're a smart person. Since that's the case, I won't beat around the bush with you. I, Long Yuqing, have countless women, but I've never met one that I like. Those women only care about my identity and status. But you're different. You're special. So I'm giving you a chance now. I want you to be my woman." Long Yuqing's words were said in a firm tone. His words carried the meaning of, "I'm flattering you by asking you to be my woman." Yun Jian only narrowed her eyes slightly. Her petite body was wrapped in a simple down jacket, but she looked strangely alluring. "What if I refuse?" Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She did not show any fear, and her words were clear. "Hee, then Falcon Hall will disappear from the stage of the black market." Long Yuqing's pupils shrunk as he stared at Yun Jian's beautiful body. His desire was aroused as he threatened loudly. Yun Jian was different from other women. She seemed to have many secrets about her, and her beautiful and alluring body was constantly attracting Long Yuqing. Long Yuqing desperately wanted to have her for himself. He could not help roaring inwardly that he had to make this woman his prisoner in bed. "Are you sure?" Yun Jian, on the other hand, kept her smile with squinted eyes. There was an unfathomable viciousness on her petite face. Su Zetian and Qin Yu were standing behind Yun Jian, surrounded by a group of people. Su Zetian was already sweating profusely. This time, Sister Jian did not bring any of her brothers with her, but something like this happened. He was afraid that Long Yuqing would ruin Yun Jian, of course. "Ha! Babe, all of this can be avoided if you're obedient." Long Yuqing was back to his usual self as he walked up to Yun Jian with a smile and stood in front of her. Her fair and flawless skin was reflected in Long Yuqing's eyes as he unconsciously reached out to touch Yun Jian's cheek. The gang leaders who dared not make a sound shook their heads inwardly. Yun Jian was skilled, but there were only 3 of them. How could she win against Long Yuqing? The pretty girl was probably going to be ruined here. Just as Long Yuqing reached out to touch Yun Jian's cheek with a smile, a bright object flashed before everyone's eyes. TSS. With a soft sound, a blinding bullet came from afar and sank into Long Yuqing's hand that was about to touch Yun Jian's skin. Ow! Long Yuqing howled as the bullet pierced his palm, his voice echoing through the clouds. Everyone was stunned by this turn of events. At the same time, everyone looked in the direction where the bullet had come from. A man in his 19 years of age was escorted by 2 men in their 20s as they walked over. The man in the middle was the one who had fired the shot. He was currently striding over with his long legs. Chapter 343. The newcomer was C.E. The two men standing behind C.E. were none other than Adam and Immerse, who were always by his side. The appearance of the three men immediately caused a commotion among the crowd. The three of them were all top-notch beauties, and their appearances were absolutely stunning. In comparison, C.E.'s looks were a cut above the other two men. The surrounding crowd was dumbfounded by what they saw. Originally, among this group of people, Long Yocheng's appearance could be considered to be the most upright and outstanding. However, the appearance of the three men, not to mention C.E., who was standing in the middle, the two men beside him were far more attractive than Long Yocheng. As for C.E., who was standing in the middle, he was so handsome that words could not describe him. At that moment, what frightened the crowd the most was what C.E. had said earlier. Kill Long Yocheng? Destroy the Green Tiger Gang? The crowd's hearts skipped a beat, but they quickly calmed down. Even if C.E. had shot Long Yocheng's palm the moment he appeared, what kind of status did the Green Tiger Gang have? The Green Tiger Gang was the top gang in the northern region. How could they be destroyed just like that? Yes, young master. Immerse, who was standing on the left, answered. He then took out his phone from his pocket and dialed a number. Who are you? How dare you say that you want to kill me and destroy the Green Tiger Gang? Long Yocheng's face was contorted in pain as he pressed his other hand that was shot through with one hand and took 2 steps forward to stand in front of C.E., speaking through the pain. You don't deserve to know our young master's identity. As for your Green Tiger Gang, our Enhan organization can't destroy you. Adam could no longer suppress his irritable nature. He jumped out and sneered at Long Yocheng. Enhan organization? Enhan organization. Wasn't Enhan organization the famous assassin organization that had trained countless international bigwigs? One should know that the top secret agent, Slaying God, who had shaken the world and made countless businessmen, politicians, and international tycoons tremble in fear, was from Enhan organization. These people were from the Enhan organization. Hearing Adam's words, Long Yocheng's face, which was already pale due to his injuries, became as white as a sheet of paper. He was stunned on the spot. The Enhan organization, along with the Kosha mercenaries, was known as the #1 assassin organization and the #1 mercenary organization. Someone once said that if you offended anyone from the Enhan organization, you wouldn't be far from death. Long Yocheng hadn't expected the people from Enhan to show up at his little tea party. The bullet had pierced his palm, but Long Yocheng was enduring the suffocating pain. He knelt down with a thud and crawled towards C.E. Please let me go, let me go. I don't know how I've angered all of you, but please forgive me. Let me go this time. Long Yocheng's entire body was trembling, and his voice was trembling. Heavens! Enhan organization. He, Long Yocheng, had angered the people from Enhan organization? Not to mention the Green Tiger Gang, even if all the gangs present were to combine forces, they wouldn't be a match for Enhan organization. This was the difference in ability. I don't know how you've angered our young master. Pfft, you challenged our young madam in public, and you say you didn't anger our young master? Adam stood in front of Long Yocheng and mercilessly stomped on the back of Long Yocheng's hand as he spoke word by word. Chapter 344. From today onwards, don't let me hear any news about the Green Tiger Gang. C.E. turned his body sideways, not even sparing a glance at Long Yocheng, who was kneeling on the ground with Adam stepping on the back of his hand, announcing his end. Young mistress. This woman named Slaying Luo was the woman of this man who possessed such a dominating aura? Long Yocheng's eyes lost their color as he stood rooted to the ground. His heart was pounding with regret. Alas, it was too late. He actually wanted to snatch the woman from Enhan group. Now, the 100-year-old Green Tiger Gang that had been passed down by his ancestors would be destroyed because of his mistake. Everyone was stunned as they stared at C.E., who announced the end of the northern region's top gang, Green Tiger Gang, as he walked toward Yinjian. At this moment, everyone's hearts surged with a wild exclamation. Yun Jian was actually the woman of an important figure in an Han group. She actually had connections with people from an Han organization. Su Zetian was equally stunned. He stared blankly at the man who walked toward Yun Jian like a king, exclaiming inwardly. It was no wonder that Yun Jian was so confident that she could lead the gang out of Longmen City. Su Zetian was the only one who felt grateful that he had chosen to follow Yun Jian back then. Otherwise, he would still be wandering around Longmen City. Yun Jian was destined to be extraordinary. Ce was already in front of Yun Jian. Looking at the girl's petite face, he had the urge to hide her in his embrace and prevent her from being stolen by anyone. Why are you here? Yun Jian blinked. She had wanted to make a move just now, but Ce had made the first move. Moreover, he had told her that he would be leaving for a while. She did not expect him to appear here, so she asked. I'm done here, so I came to look for you. She did not expect to see the scene just now. Ce did not finish his sentence, but his raised brow was enough to show his fury. His tall frame standing in front of Yun Jian was strangely compatible with Yun Jian. It was just a simple conversation, but the meaning behind it was self-evident. Young master, Green Tiger Gang's headquarters has been destroyed. Mo Sun hung up the phone and went to Ce, saying something that stirred everyone's emotions again. Ce answered and went over to grab Yun Jian's hand to walk out. The following matters were naturally left to Adam and Mo Sun to handle. Wait. Yun Jian was taken by Ce. She paused and turned to take out her Ferrari sports car key to Qing Yu from her pocket and tossed it to Qing Yu's car. Qing, with that, Yun Jian's hand, Qing Jiao's Qing Yu caught it and replied, okay, Sister Jian. By then, Yun Jian and Ce had already left. Long Yuqing watched as Yun Jian and Ce left. He clutched his palm, but the blood was already flowing down. What are you looking at? You've offended my young master. Today, I'm going to kill you. Adam stepped on the back of Long Yuqing's hand and twisted Long Yuqing's head mercilessly. The tea party could not continue now that it had come to this. However, no one would have thought that the Green Tiger Gang, once the #1 gang in the northern region, would completely disappear from the stage of history just because Long Yuqing had flirted with a woman that he should not have flirted with. Chapter 345. When Yun Jian and Ce walked out of the tea party venue, Adam lifted his leg to grab Long Yuqing from the ground and was about to give him the final blow. Suddenly, a weak male voice rang out from the tea party venue. The man's voice was directed at Adam. Are you Adam, one of the 4 leaders of the Enhan organization? There were 4 leaders in Enhan organization. Their names were Adam, Mo Sun, Shuang, and Lin Wei. The 4 leaders of Enhan organization were the people with the highest positions in the organization other than the leader. Moreover, the 4 of them had their own duties and each of them was comparable to the top 3 of the international assassin and secret agent rankings. Among the 4 of them, Lin Wei was in charge of training the assassins in Enhan organization. Hence, he was the most mysterious. Shuang, on the other hand, represented the leader of Enhan organization. As for Adam and Mo Sun, they followed the leader of Enhan organization. Both of them were the closest to the leader of Enhan organization, who was rumored to be powerful but never revealed himself. This weak male voice came from a sickly and frail middle-aged man. He had heard that Adam, one of the 4 leaders of the Enhan organization, was a hot-tempered person, which was very similar to the person in front of him. Hence, he spoke up. However, when the crowd heard him, they were stunned and held their breath. Everyone who was present was in the underworld. Who had not heard of the 4 leaders of Enhan organization? Even Qing Yu could not help but shudder at this moment. Adam and Mo Sun were the ones who always followed the leader of Enhan organization. They would never show weakness to anyone. There was only one person who could make them listen to him and bow down to him willingly. That person was the leader of Enhan organization. If that was the case, could the man who looked like he was only 19 years old be the leader of Enhan organization himself? Yun Jian had left the tea party with Ce and got into Ce's Lamborghini. Once they got into the car, Ce grabbed Yunjian's wrist. He narrowed his eyes slightly, a strong sense of possessiveness reflected in his starry eyes. If you meet that kind of person in the future, kill him directly. If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. His gaze that met with Yunjian's gradually softened. However, his words were still filled with anger. Whether it was Chen Yan at the beginning or Long Ucd this time, they all wanted to steal his woman. Ce had never wanted to wrap a woman up so crazily to prevent others from seeing her beauty. He had hated women since he was young until he met her. Ce, on the other hand, was someone who did not like someone. Once he liked someone, he would never change. Therefore, he was really angry just now. His eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and there was an indescribable handsomeness on his handsome face. Suddenly, a pair of cold hands caressed between his brows, smoothing his frown. She could feel her heartbeat as she met Ce's eyes, pressing her lips seductively. She pursed her red lips and leaned closer to him. Ce looked at the red lips that were inches away from him. He swallowed his dry throat and leaned his head forward to kiss those red lips. Yunjian responded to him like dry wood meeting fire. Perhaps in Yunjian's heart, she had already set her mind on him. After the kiss, Yunjian lowered her head, her face flushed red. Chapter 346. After Yunjian and Ce returned to Longmen City, Qingyu and Su Zetian arrived shortly after. Qingyu had rented a suite in Longmen City and was staying there for the time being. Not long after she returned to Longmen City with Ce, the two leaders of an Hun group followed them to Longmen City and stayed in the villa as Ce's friends. The empty villa became lively all of a sudden. Dong Wan did not know Adam and Mo Sen's identities at all, thinking that they were her nephew's friends. Therefore, she welcomed them warmly. This morning, Yun Jian brought her brother, Yun Yi, to join Zhang Xiaofeng for a morning run and forced Zhang Xiaofeng to train his body's flexibility. Zhang Xiaofeng was sweating profusely, but in order to learn new moves, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Yun Jian had also pulled her brother, Yun Yi's ligament, but Yun Yi did not even cry out in pain. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Yi were already sweating from exhaustion. Before they left, Zhang Xiaofeng even called out to Yun Jian, "Master, the masquerade party I mentioned to you last time will be held at 6:00 next Saturday night. You must come." Zhang Xiaofeng then turned around and called out to Yun Yi with a cheeky grin, "Hey, junior brother, you're coming too. It's a promise. No going back on your word." Since Yun Yi and Zhang Xiaofeng went for a morning run and trained together with Yun Jian, their relationship had gradually warmed up. "How rude of you to call me junior brother." Yun Yi was not angry. He merely looked at Zhang Xiaofeng's smiling face and looked like he was going to punch Zhang Xiaofeng. "You can't hit me. Hee, I'm leaving." Zhang Xiaofeng mischievously jumped away and ran forward for a long distance. Then, he turned around and said goodbye to Yun Jian and Yun Yi. After saying that, Zhang Xiaofeng put his jacket on his shoulder and his 1.8-meter tall figure ran away. How childish. Yun Jian couldn't help but sigh. She turned her head and glanced at Yun Yi. "Brother, let's go home too." "Wait, Xiao Jian." Yun Yi stopped smiling and looked at Yun Yi, hesitating for 2 seconds before asking, "Xiao Jian, you should know the girl that day, right?" That day, he was framed and drugged by Qin Yubing and almost fell into her trap. Fortunately, Qin Yu came to his rescue. It had been a long time since he last saw her. Yun Yi had not seen Qin Yu since that day. Actually, whenever Yun Yi closed his eyes these few days, Qin Yu's petite and adorable baby face would appear in his mind. Yun Jian and Qin Yu's interaction that day told Yun Yi that Yun Jian obviously knew her, which was why Yun Yi asked. I know her." Yun Jian was stunned for a moment before she snapped back to reality. When she turned to look at her brother, Yun Yi, there were 2 rosy clouds on his cheeks. "She lives at Huda Harbor on West Street." Yun Jian gave her a specific address and blinked, acting like she knew nothing. "Brother, is there a problem?" Chapter 347. Stop it, I'm already here to open the door. I'm so pissed, it's the best part of the show. Little Calabash Brother's grandfather has been taken away. Chinyu mumbled as she ran to open the door in her slippers. Since she was at home, she only wore a dress with sleeves that did not go past her knees. She had thick stockings on her feet and a cute pink jacket on her. As soon as she said that, she opened the door and saw the person standing outside. In an instant, the long-winded words in his mouth stopped. Yun-yi was standing at the door. He wore a thick blue down jacket that accentuated his handsomeness. In spite of it, Chinyu was rooted to the spot when she saw Yun-yi. Her words stopped abruptly as well. Ah! Why are you here? Chinyu shrieked after a moment of silence. Then, she realized that she was wearing very casual and revealing clothes. In this cold winter, wearing less would always feel more exposed than others. Of course, Chinyu would only wear this at home. She had thought that it was Yun Jian who was knocking on the door because Yun Jian was the only one who knew that she was staying here. That was why she had boldly opened the door. Who would have thought that the person standing at the door was not Sister Jian but Yun-yi? Once she saw Yun-yi, she was reminded of the time when she was nude and Yun-yi was detoxified and both of them were hugging each other. Her cheeks glowed red as if blood was splattered on them. She had no choice but to detoxify Yun-yi back then. After all, Yun-yi was drugged with an aphrodisiac and the effect was rather strong. She could only remove her clothes and warm up Yun-yi's body with her body temperature before feeding him the antidote to neutralize the drug. Chinyu's way of saving people had always been unique as it was her own creation. Later, Yun-yi said that she would be responsible for her, so she didn't think much about it. But now, wasn't it because of that Yun-yi was standing at the door? Can I come in? Yun-yi smiled politely. His smile was like the spring breeze, giving people a refreshing feeling as if they had been blown by the spring breeze. Ah. No. Chinyu was suddenly reminded of the clutter in her room that was piled up like a mountain. She reached out and tiptoed to block Yun-yi's gaze. I'm coming in then. Yun-yi pretended not to hear Chinyu's voice. He smiled with pursed lips and walked into Chinyu's house. Then, he saw the messy sofa, melon seeds all over the floor, and all kinds of shoes on the shoe cabinet. Yun-yi, Grandpa. At this moment, the Calabash brothers' shouts could be heard from the TV. Chinyu blushed, lowering her head as if her little secret was exposed on the spot. Cough. Your room, it's a little messy. Let me tidy it up for you. Yun-yi coughed dryly and his tall silhouette walked towards the messy clutter. Chinyu, who was standing where she was, lowered her head even more, her cheeks flushing red. A week passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the day before Zhang Xiaofeng's masquerade party. On Friday, Yun Jian finished school early, which was rare. She replaced Qin Yiru to fetch Xiao Yunju home from his primary school. Chapter 348. Xiao Yunju was now in year 1 of elementary school, the best elementary school in Longmen City, Wanning-yi Elementary School. Wanning-yi Elementary School was the best elementary school in Longmen City, just like Longmen-yi High School where Yunjian studied and D-yi High School where Yun-yi studied. Yunjian took the bus and came to the entrance of Wanning-yi Elementary School. She had just finished school and was carrying a shoulder bag. She had not put it down when she ran to the school to fetch Xiao Yunju. Wanning-yi Elementary School was a government-run elementary school and its teachers were of high standards. Those who could enroll in Wanning-yi Elementary School must have come from wealthy families. When the students of Wanning-yi Elementary School went to school, their parents would pick them up from the school's classroom. There was a lot of traffic outside the school gate. In 1998, it was common for parents to pick their children up with bicycles and electric scooters, but those who could ride electric scooters were few and far in between. The number of cars parked in front of the school gate could be counted with one hand. Therefore, some parents who drove cars liked to drive their children into the school to show off. Yun Jian came by bus. She did not like to drive her Ferrari sports car to fetch Xiao Yunju. Children of this age were still in elementary school, but there was already a trend of following the trend in their class. It was especially so for some parents who taught their children to play with their rich classmates since they were young. Playing with their rich classmates was a good starting point for their children. In spite of it, Yun Jian did not want her younger brother to become the kind of person that the children in class would fight to be friends with for his money. Following the group of parents into Wuning Elementary School, Yun Jian soon arrived at Xiao Yunju's class. At the entrance of the classroom, a triangular plaque was hung on the outside of the classroom door. There were a few bright red words printed on it, Class 1-1. This was Xiao Yunju's class. Yun Jian came to the classroom door with her bag slung over her shoulder. Looking into the classroom through the row of glass from the corridor, she saw Xiao Yunju sitting neatly in the first row, his eyes on the teacher who was lecturing on the podium. It was not the end of class yet, but the classroom was already crowded with parents picking their children up. Xiao Yunju was not tall, so he sat at the first table. Yun Jian could clearly see his little head bobbing from the corridor behind. The teacher in the classroom seemed to have said, "Class is over," and the students in little Yunju's class quickly packed their bags. Xiao Yunju poked his head out after packing his bag and found Yun Jian was surprised that Yun Jian was here to pick him up from school, so he ran out with his bag. "Big sister." Xiao Yunju ran into Yun Jian's arms. Yun Jian patted Xiao Yunju's head and took the bag from Xiao Yunju's hands. She asked, "Xiao Yunju, did you listen to the teacher in class today?" Xiao Yunju shook his head and suddenly raised his head stubbornly. Yun Jian suddenly saw a line of tears on his little face. "What's wrong?" Yun Jian suddenly frowned. She squatted down and looked at Xiao Yunju's stubbornly tear-streaked face. "Are you Yunju's big sister?" Suddenly, a greeting came from the side. Yun Jian turned around and saw that the female teacher who had been standing on the podium just now was already in front of her. Next to the female teacher was a noble woman who was holding a white and chubby boy's hand. Before Yun Jian could respond to the female teacher, the noble woman next to the female teacher pointed at Yun Jian's nose and scolded her. Chapter 349. Hearing the woman's aggressive words, Xiao Yunju hid behind Yun Jian in fear. He hid behind Yun Jian and only stuck his head out. After the woman finished speaking, Xiao Yunju suddenly stuck his head out and shouted stubbornly, "I didn't. Wang Ba snatched the candy that Ce Gij gave me first. I didn't want to give it to him, so he pushed me. That's why I pushed him back." Wang Ba was the chubby boy in the palm of Jean Mei's hand. Yun Jian turned to look at Wang Ba. His chubby body was trembling as he raised his head to look at Xiao Yunju. He seemed to be full of vigor. Looking at Xiao Yunju, he seemed to be cowering. It wasn't hard to tell that before school ended, he had already been taught a lesson by his form teacher, Teacher Lu. "You're so young, but you've already learned how to lie. Haha. My son snatched your candy? Do you think the candy in your hand is made of gold? Will it make you immortal or something? My son doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. Why would he want that lousy candy in your brother's hand?" Wang Ba's mother roared at Xiao Yunju. Teacher Lu was standing between Yun Jian, Xiao Yunju, and Wang Ba's mother. She frowned, but her expression was ugly. Teacher Lu sided with Wang Ba. She frowned at Yun Jian and said, "There's no such thing. I've already asked the students in class. They all said that your brother bullied Wang Ba. I stopped you today because I want you to discipline your brother. Also, I want you to apologize to Wang Ba." "Is it just an apology?" Wang Ba's mother looked up at Yun Jian haughtily with a contemptuous gaze. Everything happened so quickly that no one could react. I didn't. It was Wang Ba who pushed me first." Xiao Yunju was so anxious that he was about to cry. He leaned against Yun Jian, grabbed Yun Jian's hand and shook it. "Big sister, I didn't push him for no reason." Xiao Yunju's black eyes blinked, and tears almost fell from his eyes. Yun Jian was silent for a while. She didn't say anything. She just reached out her hand and gently stroked her brother's hair. I-oh. What kind of person was this? Sure enough, a poor child from a poor family was different. You have no manners at all. Wang Ba's mother stared at Xiao Yunju and Yunjian. After confirming that they were dressed plainly and looked like children from a poor family, she spoke even more fiercely. Yunju, aren't you going to apologize? If you've done something wrong, you have to apologize. Teacher Lu treated Yunju with her usual attitude as a teacher. Many teachers in the school would treat students with a one-sided view. Sometimes, it would even cause serious psychological trauma to the children. Teacher Lu was such a person. Just as Wang Ba was looking at Yunju smugly, his mother and Miss Lu were standing on his side aggressively. Yunju's expression changed. Yunjian lowered her eyes. Suddenly, she raised her voice. Enough. Teacher Lu, Wang Ba's mother, and even a group of passing parents were shocked by Yunjian's shout. Yunjian pulled Xiao Yunju. She stood in front of Wang Ba's mother and Teacher Lu without showing any signs of weakness. My brother will admit what he did, but he won't admit what he didn't do. Yunjian then turned to look at Wang Ba and said fiercely, "Little brat, you know very well whether you're lying or not. If I find out that you're slandering my brother, I'll tear your mouth apart." Chapter 350. Perhaps it was because he had been spoiled since he was young, Wang Ba did not back down out of fear. Instead, he stood up like his mother and raised his voice to Yunjian. "I'm not spouting nonsense. Humph, it was Yunju who pushed me. He's crazy." As he spoke, he pointed his chubby finger at Yunju and continued to scold and frame him. "I also heard that Yunju is a fatherless brat. Humph, I actually brought candy today. After he pushed me, he snatched my candy away. Slap." Yunjian stepped forward. She did not care that Wang Ba was a primary school student. She raised her hand and gave Wang Ba a hard slap. The words fatherless pierced Xiao Yunju's heart. Xiao Yunju's eyes, which had been stubbornly holding back tears, instantly turned red. In her previous life, when Yunjian found Xiao Yunju, their parents were already dead. Xiao Yunju was an orphan at that time and was bullied. Therefore, Xiao Yunju's lack of parents had always been a scar on his heart. No matter who the person was, even if he was only 8 or 9 years old, Yunjian would not allow him to touch Xiao Yunju's scar. It hurts. Mommy, it hurts. Woo-woo. After being slapped by Yunjian, Wang Ba's chubby body fell to the ground with a thud. He instantly howled in pain. My bow, what's wrong with you?" Wang Ba's mother hurriedly helped her son up in fear. After Wang Ba's mother helped him up, she glared at Yunjian fiercely. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Yunjian. "You little b*tch. How dare you hit my son? Do you know how precious my son is? My son is nothing compared to that bastard brother of yours. You." With that, Wang Ba's mother was about to pounce on Yunjian. Yunjian grabbed Xiao Yunju and dodged to the side. Wang Ba's mother jumped forward, but because she missed Yunjian, she fell to the ground like a frog. "Wang Ba's mother, are you okay?" Teacher Lu, who was comforting Wang Ba a moment ago, ran over to comfort Wang Ba's mother. Wang Ba's father was a board member of the school. Not long ago, he had donated a batch of books to the school. At that time, the principal had specially instructed her to take good care of Wang Ba. If something were to happen to Wang Ba in school, wouldn't that be terrible? "Ba, damn girl, are you courting death?" After Wang Ba's mother was helped up by Teacher Lu, she was in a sorry state. She was instantly enraged and glared at Yunjian as if she wanted to swallow Yunjian whole. Surveillance. When Yunjian saw that Wang Ba's mother had stopped pouncing on her, she looked at Teacher Lu and Wang Ba's mother and sneered. "What?" Wang Ba's mother and Teacher Lu did not react in time. Check the surveillance and you will know if your son provoked my brother first or if my brother bullied your son for no reason. Yun Jian looked fearlessly at Wang Ba's mother, who was in a sorry state. She paused and continued, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. If your son framed my brother first, I will definitely kill all of you." Yun Jian's gaze turned menacing at once, sending chills down the spines of those who were present. There were not many surveillance cameras in this era, especially some people who did not even know what surveillance cameras were. However, Waning Elementary School's equipment was more advanced. Therefore, every classroom was equipped with a surveillance camera. Chapter 351. Once she heard that they were going to check the surveillance cameras, Wang Ba's mother's slender figure shuddered. To be honest, she did not know if it was her son or Xiao Yunju who made the first move. She had rushed to Miss Lu to ask Yunju to apologize to her son after hearing her son's one-sided explanation just as she arrived at school. Actually, Miss Lu had already reprimanded Xiao Yunju in front of the whole class about Xiao Yunju and Wang Ba's incident. She did not expect him to be so spirited, telling his mother directly after school and asking her to stand up for him. It was just that everyone had forgotten that there were surveillance cameras in the classroom. To be honest, in a school classroom, who would remember if there were any surveillance cameras? Besides, this was not an era where surveillance cameras were everywhere. Normal families would not even install surveillance cameras. Primary schools were different. The children were still young and mischievous. Moreover, the teachers could not keep an eye on their classmates all the time, so they could only install surveillance cameras in each classroom. Waning Elementary School was the best primary school in Longmen City, so they could afford to install surveillance cameras. Therefore, every corner of the school was monitored by surveillance cameras. However, the internet was not yet popular in 1998. Even a mobile phone was still a luxury item. Therefore, many people, including the teachers, had completely forgotten about the fact that there were surveillance cameras in the school. Miss Lu snapped out of it at once. She believed that Wang Ba was not lying, so when Yun Jian said that, she went with the flow. Check the surveillance cameras then. In any case, Wang Ba was definitely right. Miss Lu's confidence came from nowhere. When she agreed to Yun Jian's request, her tone was confident and carried an air of maturity that was rich in experience. Isn't this just two kids pushing each other? What's there to check? Besides, didn't all the classmates in the class testify that he pushed my son? How could he be wrong? Wang Ba's mother did not mind talking too much. She stood up and spoke while trembling. After saying that, she kept repeating, "Besides, isn't it just a piece of candy? My family drives cars, why would I care? So you're saying that you don't dare to check the surveillance?" Yun Jian sneered. She had already noticed Wang Ba's reaction. Wang Ba's cowering appearance was clearly an expression of a guilty conscience. Yun Jian tugged at Xiao Yunju. She was here today to seek justice for Xiao Yunju. "Oh, I get it now. You're afraid that people will find out that your son stole my brother's candy, so you don't dare to check the CCTV. Yun Jian could tell from Wang Ba's mother's words and actions that this woman was very prideful. Therefore, her voice was very loud, so loud that people who were dozens of meters away could hear her clearly. When Wang Ba's mother saw that everyone was looking at her, she felt embarrassed on the spot. She looked at Yun Jian and raised her head with an arrogant look. "Who says I'm scared? Let's go." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and her lips curled into a cold smile. After a while, the few of them arrived at the school's surveillance room. The teacher who was in charge of the surveillance room looked at Yun Jian and the others in confusion. Then, he sat in front of the computer and looked at the surveillance footage for a long time. Finally, he found the footage of Xiao Yunju angrily pushing Wang Ba down. During this time, Wang Ba's hand was accidentally scratched by Xiao Yunju. When Wang Ba's mother saw this, she was instantly enraged. She pointed at Yun Jian and continued to scold her. "See, it's your brother who pushed my son. He..." Yun Jian ignored the few of them. She asked the teacher to move away and sat in front of the computer. She reached out her hand and quickly tapped on the keyboard under the shocked gaze of the few people. Then, a scene suddenly appeared on the computer screen. Wang Ba walked towards Xiao Yunju, who was sitting in his seat. He pointed at the lollipop in Xiao Yunju's hand and asked for it. Xiao Yunju shook his head. Wang Ba rushed forward and pushed Xiao Yunju fiercely. When Xiao Yunju steadied himself, Wang Ba reacted and angrily pushed back. He even accidentally scratched Wang Ba's hand. Chapter 352. Teacher Lu, who was standing beside Wang Ba's mother, turned pale as well. Just now, Miss Lu's expression was the same as how much she believed that Wang Ba and Yunju were at fault. "Little brat, it looks like I'm going to tear your mouth apart." While everyone was dumbfounded watching the surveillance footage on the computer, Yun Jian suddenly stood in front of Wang Ba, looking like she was going to tear him into pieces. "Ah. Mom. Ah, I'm scared." Wang Ba was just a kid after all. He was scared by Yun Jian and his heart almost stopped beating. He screamed and jumped into his mother's arms. Actually, Yun Jian was not going to tear his mouth apart. She just wanted to scare this kid who was full of nonsense. Her brother was not bullied. From the video, her brother was pushed and he fought back. Looking at the entire video, her brother had the upper hand. As for the students who lied to the teacher and said that Xiao Yunju was the one who started it, they were probably bought over by Wang Ba. This was not surprising. Most of the students in this school were educated by their parents to climb up the social ladder. The parents who tried their best to send their children to this school just wanted their children to make friends with rich and powerful families. Wang Ba's family seemed to be quite rich. It was not impossible for him to make some promises and get all the students to speak up for him. Wang Ba's mother, however, pulled her son into her arms. Her gaze on Yun Jian turned menacing, as if she was going to devour Yun Jian in the next second. "So what if my son wants your brother's candy?" "Humph, you poor kids should feel lucky that my son wants candy." Wang Ba's mother looked at Yun Jian with a righteous attitude. Wang Ba's mother did not know how to write the word repentance. The reason why she dared to yell at Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju was because Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju were not wearing expensive clothes. Usually, rich people like to dress their sons or daughters up well and wear branded clothes from head to toe. Just like her son, Wang Ba. However, looking at Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju, their clothes were not bad, but overall, they were very plain. There was not a single piece of branded clothing on them. Especially when his son said that Yunju was a wild child without a father. Where could this kind of wild child's family go with money? Ba. Therefore, Wang Ba's mother did not intend to teach Yun Jian a lesson from the very beginning. "Apologize." Yun Jian raised her hand and looked at the watch that she had just bought. She said to Wang Ba impatiently. "What?" Wang Ba's mother opened her mouth wide again on behalf of her son. She looked as if she had seen a new world. "I'll give you two options. The first option is to ask your son to apologize to my brother immediately." Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at her, suddenly looking a little sinister. Teacher Lu was also shocked. Wang Ba's mother, who was beside her, was also affected. She swallowed her lips and pursed her lips that were as red as a chicken's butt. Then, she said, "Secondly, I'll kill you." Yun Jian suddenly reached out. She took out a butterfly knife from her pocket in front of everyone and threw it at Wang Ba's mother's head. She was so fast that no one could react in time. When they did, Wang Ba's mother's heart was in her mouth. The butterfly knife brushed past Wang Ba's mother's hair and even tore off a lot of her hair. In the end, it bounced off a metal box and landed in Yun Jian's hand. Ah! Wang Ba's mother was completely terrified by the scene. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they saw Yun Jian's move. Chapter 353. Yun Jian's action almost scared everyone to death. However, what she said after that made everyone shudder. Was it a joke? Who would play a joke by throwing a butterfly knife at someone's head? However, Wang Ba, his mother, and teacher Lu did not dare to make a sound. This was because they smelled a murderous aura from Yunjian. Moreover, after the butterfly knife was thrown, Yunjian was able to use the surrounding environment to bounce it back to her hand. Such a powerful skill could not be a coincidence. So, are you going to apologize now? Yunjian tilted her head. She held Xiao Yunju's hand and stared at Wang Ba's mother lazily. The threat came out of her mouth naturally. Wang Ba's mother could not help but swallow her saliva. She held Wang Ba's hand and paused for a moment. In the end, due to fear, she pushed her son and quickly fell to the ground. Wang Ba's mother gave her son a shove and glanced at Yunjian fearfully, looking like she had yet to recover from her initial shock. Apologize. Wang Ba's mother was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. She was scared out of her wits by Yunjian's butterfly knife. Although her son was important, her face and her son's dignity were definitely more important than her. Wang Ba was also scared out of his wits. After all, he was only a first grader. When Yunjian threatened him just now, Wang Ba was already scared out of his wits. So sorry. After being pushed out by his mother, Wang Ba's low voice came out of his mouth like a mosquito. Xiao Zhu, can you hear his voice? Yunjian squatted down and looked at Xiao Yunju's pink face. She could not help but stroke his head and ask softly. Sister, I can't hear him. He's speaking so softly. Xiao Yunju covered his ears with all his might. His pink face instantly became round and he even made a face at Wang Ba. Stupid Xiao Yunju, you. Wang Ba saw Xiao Yunju making a face at him and immediately stood up. He clenched his fat fist and wanted to threaten Xiao Yunju but was covered by Yunjian's words. Did you hear that? My brother said he didn't hear what you said. Yunjian turned her head sideways and looked at Wang Ba from the corner of her eyes. She played with the butterfly knife in her hand and revealed an evil smile. Yunjian's actions made Wang Ba's mother and the others' hearts tremble. Wang Ba's mother, in particular, was already chilled to the bone when she saw Yunjian playing with the butterfly knife. Shuddering, she smacked her son's head. Louder. Say it. Wang Ba's mother was afraid that the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand would fly out of Yunjian's hand and fly towards her again. She was so scared that she quickly urged her son. It was the first time Wang Ba's mother had patted his head so hard. He felt so wrong that he was so scared that tears rolled down his face and he started to stutter. Wang Ba looked at Xiao Yunju and shouted, sorry. He had never been humiliated like this before. If I find out that you bullied my brother again, you'll have to deal with it yourself. Yunjian sneered. She did not even look at Wang Ba. Instead, she held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked out of the surveillance room without looking back. Wang Ba's mother heaved a sigh of relief. She trembled as she pulled her son up. She did not even have time to greet Teacher Lu and ran towards the door. Of course, she was not satisfied. However, Wang Ba's mother knew that she was no match for Yunjian. Chapter 354. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked out of the school. They passed by a large patch of flower beds and a rockery that Wanning-E Elementary School had just built. Wanning-E Elementary School was definitely the most scenic in Longmen City. It had to be said that Wanning-E Elementary School occupied a large area and it was not too close to the school building from the school gate. There were many flower beds for people to admire as they walked. The school leaders had even built a rockery to enhance the school's scenic view. At this time, somewhere in the rockery, the fountain was still spraying water. The water splashed up and down, forming a round hollow circle, which looked particularly beautiful. Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand as they walked out and soon arrived at the school gate. Suddenly, Yunjian caught sight of a snack shop near the school gate. She pressed her lips together and bent down to ask Xiao Yunju, Xiao Zhu, do you want to buy some snacks? Can I, Jijia? Xiao Yunju was delighted when he heard that Yun Jian wanted to bring him to buy snacks. He stood up and looked up at Yun Jian, blinking his eyes adorably. Of course. Yun Jian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked to the snack shop. This was a small shop with old decorations. Most of the things sold inside were snacks that children like to eat, such as spicy strips that cost a few cents a pack. The shopkeeper was a very pretty lady who looked about 18 or 19 years old. She must be the shopkeeper's daughter. When the lady saw Yun Jian walking over with Xiao Yunju's hand, she stood up quickly and greeted them. Hello, do you want to buy anything? Since Yun Jian and the rest had gone to the surveillance room, the students at the school gate had already been taken home by their parents when they left the school gate. Hence, the shop was empty, leaving only Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju walking over. Jijia, I want spicy strips. Xiao Yunju grabbed Yun Jian's hand and shook it excitedly when he saw the big bag of way-long spicy strips at the front. No, spicy strips are junk food. Don't even think about it, Yun Jian flicked Xiao Yunju's forehead and said softly with a smile. Jijia, why do you say the same thing as Gij? Xiao Yunju pouted unhappily and looked away, blurting out. Yun Jian was dumbfounded when she heard him. Said the same thing too. Then I'll buy 3 lollipops. One for Jijia and one for me. This one is for Gij. Xiao Yunju quickly reached out and took 3 lollipops from the shelf. He held them in his hand and looked at Yun Jian with his small eyes blinking. Yun Jian really wanted to ask Xiao Yunju why he kept mentioning Ce, but she swallowed her words. Just as she walked out of the shop with Yunju after paying the bill, 3 menacing silhouettes approached them from the opposite side. They were Wang Ba's mother, and the others. As for the other person, he was a middle-aged man. He was tall and sturdy, standing at 1.9 meters tall. He was plump and strong, and the muscles on his arms could be seen through his clothes. This middle-aged man looked exactly like Wang Ba, so it wasn't hard to tell that they were related. Chapter 355. Yun Jian felt goosebumps all over her body when she heard Wang Ba's mother speaking to the middle-aged man with her soft and coquettish voice. The middle-aged man sized up Yun Jian with a sarcastic look. He even looked at her as if she was a beggar. Are you the one who bullied my woman and my son? The middle-aged man looked at Yun Jian and sneered. Yun Jian held Xiao Yunju's hand. She raised her head slightly and looked at the middle-aged man. She smiled but did not say anything. The middle-aged man was Wang Ba's father, Wang Wugui. Wang Wugui was an employee of a large corporation. He had been working there for a few years and had been promoted a few times. He felt that he was already a big boss. Therefore, he liked to observe people's clothes when he looked at them. He was not afraid when he saw that Yun Jian was dressed plainly and Xiao Yunju did not have a single branded item on him. Yun Jian crossed her arms and pursed her lips. She smiled as if she was looking at a fool. The 3 of them were indeed a family. The first thing they did when they came up was to check out their clothes. Yun Jian saw through their actions clearly. What are you laughing at? Wang Wugui rolled up his sleeves and was about to walk towards Yun Jian when he was stopped by Wang Ba's mother. Hubby, you can't go. This girl is strange. She seems to know some martial arts. Wang Ba's mother stopped Wang Wugui and stood beside Yun Jian. Now that her husband was there, Wang Ba's mother did not seem to be afraid of Yun Jian. Wang Ba's mother had also forgotten about what happened in the surveillance room. She came over and lifted her head to meet Yun Jian's eyes, her gaze distant. Then, Wang Ba's mother suddenly pointed at a Volkswagen Santana car that was parked not far away and showed it off to Yun Jian. Little girl, you won't give up until you see the coffin. Do you see that? That's my car. Do you have a car at home? Young people nowadays like to act like they're rich and powerful but they're actually very sloppy at home. This young person was the one that Wang Ba's mother used to describe Yun Jian. Wang Ba's mother was not stupid. She did not want her husband to fight with Yun Jian. She followed Yun Jian here because she wanted to take revenge. She wanted to make fun of Yun Jian. Wang Ba's mother thought that young people nowadays would act like they were rich if they were poor. To Wang Ba's mother, Yun Jian was one of them. Wang Ba's mother's husband, Wang Wugui, actually had quite a high position in the company. After all, there were probably only a handful of people in the family who could afford to drive a car. Usually, Wang Wugui and his family would drive this Santana everywhere to show off. At the end of the day, their Volkswagen Santana was bought from New Cruise. Seeing that Yun Jian did not reply, Wang Ba's mother thought that she was stunned after hearing that the Volkswagen Santana belonged to her family. Wang Ba's mother was even more proud of herself. She even boasted, do you know the famous New Cruise? They're the best car marketing company. My family's car was bought from New Cruise. Chapter 356. Ever since the auto show, New Cruise's name had risen in the industry. Zhang Jifan had been so busy lately that he did not even have the time to hire helpers. Yun Jian was only in charge of the bigger matters while Zhang Jifan was in charge of the smaller matters. Of course, she would make a trip to New Cruise during the weekend. However, Yun Jian was amused when she heard her company's name from Wang Ba's mother's mouth. It was her company. Now that someone had bought a car from her company, how could she show off in front of her? Oh. Yun Jian held back her laughter. It was the first time she was so interested to know what Wang Ba's mother's expression would be if she knew that her car was bought from her company. Have you heard of New Cruise or not? That's New Cruise. My family's car was bought there. But that's true. How would a child from a poor family like you have the chance to know about all these? Wang Ba's mother's tone softened as she spoke. She tilted her head slightly and looked at Yun Jian with an indescribable disdain. Sister, what's New Cruise? Can it be eaten? Xiao Yunju was indeed a child. He lifted his head and shook it, the lollipop still in his mouth. Upon hearing Xiao Yunju's words, Wang Ba's mother was even more certain that Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju were children from a poor family. Wang Ba's mother glared at Yun Jian and continued to attack her with what she thought was a satisfying way of venting her anger when she recalled how Yun Jian had humiliated her in the surveillance room. Yo, look, your brother doesn't even know what New Cruise is? Is it true that you don't know either? A child from a poor family. Just based on this, you can't compare to us. You're ignorant. Wang Ba's mother seemed to have seized the opportunity to insult Yun Jian. She shouted at the top of her lungs as if she was afraid that the passers-by would not know what was going on. Just as Wang Ba's mother finished her sentence, the sound of an emergency brake came from the road. Vroom, screech, the sports car's motor was very loud. It could be heard from far away. The sports car seemed to be moving very fast. By the time the crowd reacted, the sports car was already parked on a downhill road beside them. In 1998, even cars were considered rare luxury goods, not to mention sports cars. Wang Ba's mother and the rest turned around immediately when they heard the sound. Wang Ba's mother even wanted to use the sports car that appeared out of nowhere to brag to Yun Jian so that she would be speechless and feel even more embarrassed. Yun Jian looked at the sports car that appeared out of nowhere as well and squinted her eyes in surprise. Hey, you've never seen it before. Do you know what a sports car is? Wang Ba's mother pointed at the sports car that had appeared out of nowhere, wanting to boast about her knowledge. Xiao Yunju suddenly let go of Yun Jian's hand. He jumped excitedly towards the young man who came down from the Lamborghini sports car while shouting, "Brother CE." CE stepped out of the Lamborghini sports car with his long legs and his flawless handsome face was revealed. Seeing Xiao Yunju running towards him, he quickly carried Xiao Yunju. Wang Ba's mother and Wang Wugui were dumbfounded. Chapter 357. What was going on? When Wang Wugui and Wang Ba's mother saw the sports car that appeared out of nowhere, their first reaction was envy from the bottom of their hearts. Their family could afford a car, but it didn't mean that they could afford a sports car. Especially in this era, how many families in the city could afford a car? Moreover, a sports car's fuel consumption was incomparable to a car's. In other words, even if Wang Ba's family could afford a sports car, even if someone gave them a sports car for free, they wouldn't be able to afford a sports car based on its fuel consumption. However, they could afford a car, but other families didn't. Based on this, Wang Ba's mother had already bragged to many people. However, when she saw the high-end and domineering Lamborghini, although she couldn't tell what kind of car it was, she could tell that it was a sports car. Wang Wugui and Wang Ba's mother naturally envied her from the bottom of their hearts. Wang Ba's mother actually wanted to show off her knowledge in front of Yun Jian so that she would think that she was the kind of person who could afford a sports car. However, she didn't expect Xiao Yunju to recognize the young man who drove the sports car. When she looked at Ce again, he was already carrying Xiao Yunju and walking towards Yun Jian. What's going on? Ce frowned. His cold and handsome face twitched as he glanced at Wang Ba's family from the corner of his eyes like a hawk's. He stood in front of Yun Jian and asked. Nothing, it's just a bunch of flies blowing in my ear. Yun Jian waved her hand as though she was trying to chase away flies. Flies? Ce raised his eyebrows and said. Wang Ba's mother sucked in a sharp breath when she saw Ce's face. When she saw Ce speak, she thought that he would say something fair that she wanted to hear. However, she didn't expect Ce to rub Xiao Yunju's head. His handsome face twitched and his brows twitched. Since it's just a few annoying flies, it's better to kill them. On the surface, he looked friendly, but the words he said were even more terrifying than Yun Jian's actions. Wang Ba's mother, Wang Wugui, and Wang Ba stood at the side and listened with cold sweat on their backs. Why were the young people who came today more barbaric than the other? Due to the awkwardness just now, Wang Ba's family didn't want to stay any longer. They turned around and wanted to run. At this moment, they heard a sinister voice came from behind them. I've memorized your license plate. From now on, New Cruise's business with you. Thru's mother's license plate, On's license plate, the owner's names, and so on. That was why Yun Jian's mother's. What? Wang Ba's father wanted to run away with his tail between his legs. Wang Wugui's muscular body stood beside Yun Jian and said with a ferocious expression, why should New Cruise listen to you? Who do you think you are? You think you're going to stop doing business with us just because you said so? Because she's New Cruise's director. Unknowingly, there was another high-end Audi parked by the road. Zhang Jifan got out of the car and heard Wang Wugui's words. He walked over angrily and blocked Yun Jian's path as he spoke to Wang Wugui. Chapter 358. In spite of it, Zhang Jifan's words did not seem to have any effect on Wang Wugui when they reached him. Instead, Wang Wugui pointed at Yun Jian and told Zhang Jifan, TSK. You're saying she's New Cruise's director? Are you King kidding me? Look at this girl. How does she look like New Cruise's director? She's dressed in rags, but New Cruise's director doesn't look like that. She should at least have at least 3 branded items on her. These were just the images Wang Wugui came up with for New Cruise's director. What Wang Wugui meant was to refute that Yun Jian was not New Cruise's director. TSK, what a joke. Who was he kidding? This girl dressed in cheap clothes was New Cruise's director? If she was New Cruise's director, he would be the country's general manager. Yun Jian was not upset by Wang Wugui's words. She did not even look at him. Instead, she turned to Zhang Jifan and pointed at the Santana sedan's license plate, telling Zhang Jifan directly, remember the license plate number. Block all information about him when we get back. New Cruise will never do any business with him in the future. Yes, Sister Jian. Zhang Jifan nodded and ignored Wang Wugui. She spoke as if she meant it. Actually, Wang Wugui's eyelids were already twitching when he saw how confident Yun Jian was. Could it be that this little girl was really? Wang Wugui was startled by his own thoughts. In the end, he took his wife and son and hurriedly left this place. What's the matter? Yin Jian finally asked Zhang Jifan. Sister Jian, Wanda Corporation invited you to a party at 6 tomorrow night. Are you going? Zhang Jifan asked. Zhang Jifan was rich now and had bought a branded car, but he had yet to buy a phone. He had probably been too busy recently, so busy that he did not even have time to buy one. Therefore, Zhang Jifan drove over to ask Yin Jian. He had gone to Yin Jian's school, but there was no one there. It was also Xiao Yunju's school's dismissal time. Zhang Jifan was smart enough to come here. He was only there to ask Yin Jian. After Yin Jian answered him, he had to leave and rush to his work. There was no time to lose. Yin Jian squinted her eyes. Wanda Corporation. Wasn't Wanda Corporation Zhang Xiaofeng's father's company? What a coincidence. Zhang Xiaofeng had reminded her repeatedly that she had to attend the masquerade party tomorrow night. Now, Zhang Jifan was telling her that Wanda had invited her as the representative of New Cruise. I'll go, Yin Jian answered almost immediately. Zhang Jifan looked like he was saying, that's great. As long as Yin Jian was willing to go, he did not have to do it on her behalf anymore. He could continue working on his own matters. Oh, okay, Sister Jian. I'll leave this to you then. Zhang Jifan said and waved at Xiao Yunju before he left. Thus, there were only Yin Jian, Xiao Yunju, and Ce left. Ce Gidge, this lollipop is for you. Xiao Yunju was the first to break the silence, passing a strawberry-flavored lollipop to Ce with a drooping face like he was anticipating a compliment. Looking at the red strawberry-flavored lollipop, Yin Jian's lips tugged into a smirk. This color matched Ce. He probably wouldn't accept it, would he? In spite of it, Ce accepted Xiao Yunju's lollipop and even praised Xiao Yunju with a rub on his head before he opened the lollipop package and popped it into his mouth. Yin Jian was also stuffing Xiao Yunju's lollipop into her mouth. Her mouth was slightly agape as she watched Ce stuff the strawberry-flavored lollipop into his mouth. Did he really eat it? Yin Jian was stupefied. The lollipop dangled by her lips as her jaw dropped. You've been staring at my lollipop for a long time. Since you like the taste of my lollipop so much, let's change. Chapter 359. Yin Jian's heart thumped wildly when she saw Ce actually stuffing the lollipop she had already eaten into his mouth. She had never imagined that he would actually eat the lollipop she had already licked. Yin Jian was still holding the lollipop Ce had already eaten. She was stunned. You're not eating it? Ce raised his eyebrows when he saw that Yin Jian didn't put the lollipop in her mouth. You've already eaten it. I don't want it. Yin Jian frantically stuffed the lollipop back into Ce's hand as a faint blush crept across her cheeks. Ce turned his face sideways so that his perfect profile was facing Yin Jian. He reached out and stuffed the strawberry-flavored lollipop he had just eaten into his mouth as well. His eyes narrowed into slits as he smiled wickedly. Yin Jian's eyelids twitched twice. Her cheeks suddenly flushed red as she stood rooted to the ground and gritted her teeth. Then she said angrily to Ce, "You're really shameless." The scene of Ce stuffing 2 lollipops into his mouth at the same time was simply indescribable. Especially when she knew that one of the lollipops was one that she had eaten before, Yin Jian felt even more embarrassed at the thought. "I'm only shameless in front of you." Ce slowly held the 2 lollipops in his hand. His handsome face faced Yin Jian as he stared fixedly at her with his mesmerizing eyes. "Big brother Ce, what do you mean by shameless?" Xiao Yunju looked suspiciously at Yin Jian and Ce's actions. He shook his head from side to side as he asked with the lollipop in his mouth. A child with a curiosity that didn't fully understand was like a million whys and always had endless questions to ask. "Of course it's to praise your big brother Ce," Yin Jian replied to Xiao Yunju before Ce could. Yin Jian hadn't expected Xiao Yunju to ask Ce this question. She didn't want Xiao Yunju to know that she was scolding Ce, so she hurriedly spoke first. "Oh." Xiao Yunzhu shook his little head as though he understood what she meant. Yunjian let out a small sigh of relief. However, at this moment, Xiao Yunzhu's tender voice was heard again. He raised his head to look at Ce and revealed his adorable little face. He praised Ce earnestly. "Big brother Ce, you're really shameless." After that, Yunzhu looked up at Ce like he was waiting for a reward, blinking from time to time. Pfft. Cough, cough. Yunjian couldn't help but laugh out loud. However, she quickly stopped herself and coughed to cover up the awkwardness. As expected, Ce's face instantly darkened. "Big brother Ce, why are you so unhappy? Did Xiao Yunzhu say something wrong?" Xiao Yunzhu blinked as he looked at Ce and then at Yunjian strangely. "You didn't say anything wrong. Your big brother Ce is very happy." Yunjian held back her laughter. She held Xiao Yunzhu's hand and happily strode forward. It was only when she was with Ce and Xiao Yunzhu that it was the most fun. At the same time, Yunjian dared to open her heart and laugh out loud. Ce suddenly walked around Xiao Yunzhu and leaned over to Yunjian's ear. He gently exhaled and said in a mellow voice with a hint of magnetism, "See how I'll deal with you." These words were extremely flirtatious, but Yunjian didn't feel the slightest bit repulsed. Her ears tingled and she reached out to push Ce away. "Humph, Xiao Zhu, let's go. Ignore your big brother Ce." Yunjian grabbed Xiao Yunzhu's hand and took 2 steps forward. Chapter 360. Brother Ce, you're so shameless. When Xiao Yunzhu saw Ce reach out to grab Yunjian's wrist, he hurriedly raised his small hands and clapped twice as a form of applause. Xiao Yunzhu seemed to automatically categorize this as a compliment. He clapped his hands because his teacher had taught him that when praising others, he had to clap his hands. When he saw Ce reach out to grab Yunjian's wrist, he clapped out of habit to praise her. Ce's face was terrifyingly dark. He grabbed Yunjian's wrist with one hand and wrapped his other arm around Xiao Yunzhu's waist. He carried him single-handedly and walked towards the Lamborghini sports car. When he threw Xiao Yunzhu and Yunjian into the car, Ce started the engine. The car was like a bolt of lightning as it sped away in the blink of an eye. When they reached home, Xiao Yunzhu carried his small school bag and went to the study on the first floor to do his homework. Ce, on the other hand, held Yunjian's hand and went upstairs. The moment they left Xiao Yunzhu's field of vision, Ce pinned her against the wall with his height advantage. Yunjian squeezed her body, but was still pinned against the wall by Ce. She asked, "What are you doing?" "Of course, I'm doing what a shameless person should do." Ce smiled. He raised his thick brows and pressed his tall body against hers. Yunjian was kissed passionately, but she gradually lost herself in it. They only let go of each other when they were almost out of breath. "Be my woman." Ce hugged Yunjian as they stood in the corner. He declared domineeringly. His words were not a greeting, but an affirmation. She buried her head in Ce's chest and took in his light, fresh scent. She couldn't help but nod her head gently. Ce, on the other hand, wore a charming smirk. This was considered as establishing their identities. Yunjian nestled in Ce's arms. Her eyes were downcast, but the faint blush on her cheeks revealed her current emotions. After Yunjian agreed, Ce hugged her even tighter. He had always been a man who dared to take responsibility for his actions. Back then, he hated women, so he had never planned to find a woman and had never considered this possibility. However, Ce could guarantee that the person he approved of was definitely not just a playful relationship between a man and a woman. He wanted to pursue Yunjian with the premise of marriage. Yunjian did not know why she agreed to Ce's request. When she came to her senses, she had already agreed to his request. However, Yunjian didn't regret it. The next day, in the evening, the sky turned dark quickly in winter. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the the sky had already begun to turn dark. At 6:00 in the evening, Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Wanda Company, would be holding a masquerade party. The reason why it was called a masquerade party was that the people who entered the party would usually dress up repeatedly before going. Naturally, makeup was essential. Of course, they also needed to wear a decent gown. Zhang Xiaofeng had already prepared the gowns for Yun Jian and Yun Yi. Yun Yi wore a black suit. Yun Jian also wore the evening gown that Zhang Xiaofeng had asked Chen Sini to send to her. Yun Jian even tied her hair up and put on light makeup. It was very light makeup. It looked as if she had never put on makeup before. However, one had to admit that Yun Jian's skin was very good. Her skin was fair, and her lips were red and tender. Chapter 361. To put it bluntly, this masquerade party was a gathering for people from the same circle to get to know each other and make friends. Naturally, the children would play with the other children while the adults would discuss adult matters. However, the similarity of the masquerade party was that everyone came dressed up beautifully. It could even be said that this was a blind date in disguise. This was because some rich families would bring their daughters or sons of marriageable age who were dressed up prettily or their sons who were dressed coolly. If they met someone who had the same goal as their family, they could naturally get to know each other. After all, rich people nowadays were particular about matching in social status. It was the best choice to pick a son-in-law or daughter-in-law for one's daughter or son at such a large-scale masquerade party. Yun Jian rarely put on makeup. In her previous life, other than when she was on a mission, she would usually appear barefaced. She only put on light makeup for this masquerade party, and this was for Zhang Xiaofeng's sake. CE would not show up at such a large-scale event, and of course, Yun Jian did not bring Qin Yu along either. After all, Zhang Xiaofeng only invited her and her brother, Yun Yi. The evening gown that Chen Sini sent to Yun Jian was a hollowed-out black lace gown. However, there was enough fabric inside to cover the parts that should not be exposed, so there was no need to worry about a mishap. However, there was a disadvantage to this evening gown, which was that it exposed her shoulders. Wearing such thin clothes in such a cold winter would naturally make one shiver in the cold wind. In fact, most people wore evening gowns that exposed their shoulders and arms. This masquerade party was held indoors. There was a heater in the room, so as long as one walked in, they would not feel cold anymore. Yun Jian wore this evening gown that exposed her shoulders and a down jacket on the outside. The combination looked odd, but Yun Jian did not mind at all. After meeting her brother, Yun Yi, and Zhang Xiaofeng brought Yun Jian and Yun Yi into the room where the masquerade party was held. It was only then that the heater in the room was turned on. "Let's go and greet my dad first. Master, my dad has been wanting to meet you since he found out that I've been learning from you." Zhang Xiaofeng led Yun Jian and Yun Yi into the room. In front of them, a tall middle-aged man was holding a wine glass and chatting with the person in front of him. Zhang Xiaofeng walked directly to the tall middle-aged man. "Feng you're here." When the tall, middle-aged man saw Zhang Xiaofeng, he immediately greeted the person standing opposite him before he turned to Zhang Xiaofeng and asked. The tall middle-aged man was Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan. Zhang Qishan, this name was actually quite rustic. Actually, Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan, did not have a good life when he was young. His parents were all from the countryside, so naturally, the name that they gave him was not flattering. When Zhang Qishan was young, he ventured out alone. Later on, because he took the right path, he slowly became rich out of thin air. Until now, Wanda Corporation was a big brand company in Country Z. "Yes, Dad, this is my master." Zhang Xiaofeng pointed at Yun Jian and introduced her to Zhang Qishan. Zhang Xiaofeng had heard from his son that Zhang Xiaofeng was learning from Yun Jian. Chapter 362. Yun Jian's appearance was indeed disproportionate to her ability. It was no wonder that Zhang Qishan could not believe that she was the skilled master his son had been talking about every day when he first saw her. "Hello, uncle, Yun Jian greeted Zhang Qishan politely. Hello, young lady. Zhang Qishan nodded and smiled apologetically at Yun Jian and Yun Yi. Please forgive me for not being a good host. Uncle has something to do now, so please take a walk around. Zhang Qishan actually had something important to discuss with the person he was talking to earlier, so he spoke like that. In fact, for a group of businessmen like Zhang Qishan, this masquerade party was just a party held to make more friends who would be useful to their business. It was just to make some connections. Thank you, uncle. Yun Jian thanked him politely and walked away with Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Yi. Hey, master, the temperature in the room is just right. It's not too cold or too hot. Why are you still wrapped in such a thick down jacket? Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Yun Jian and asked in confusion. It's fine like this. Yun Jian pulled herself together. She didn't plan to take off the down jacket that was wrapped around her impressive body. She wasn't boasting, but this body was really developed too well. It was curvy in all the right places and concave in all the right places. The original owner's looks weren't just for show. On the contrary, if Yun Jian took off her down jacket, perhaps everyone's eyes would converge on her. This comparison wasn't exaggerated at all. Yun Jian didn't want to stand out either. Hey, look, the two of them are finally here. Zhang Xiaofeng nodded in confusion at Yun Jian's decision. Suddenly, he glanced over and saw people coming in from the door. He stood up and waved at them as he spoke to Yun Jian. Chen Sini and Ling Yichen came in side by side with a few other young men and women around their age trailing behind them. However, judging by Chen Sini and Ling Yichen's expressions, they did not seem to welcome the young men and women behind them at all. Chen Sini was wearing a pink strapless evening gown today. Her rather tall and straight figure was completely exposed. Ling Yichen, on the other hand, wore a black suit of the same style. The suit on Ling Yichen added quite a bit of handsomeness to him. The moment they saw Yun Jian, Chen Sini and Ling Yichen looked like they had seen their savior. They quickly ran toward Yun Jian and tried to shake off the young men and women behind them. Jian Jian. Chen Sini called Yun Jian and ran behind Yun Jian. Ling Yichen's too. Hey, why are you running so fast? We can't catch up. Is this how you treat your guests? The young men and women who had been trailing behind Chen Sini and Ling Yichen caught up as well. One of the younger girls pointed at Chen Sini and Ling Yichen and shouted. The girl was dressed extravagantly. She was covered in glittering gold from head to toe, and there was a huge bow at the bottom of her chest that hugged her waist that was not particularly thick. The girl's name was Song Shanshan. Song Shanshan and the group of young men and women behind her were actually Zhang Xiaofeng's distant relatives. Zhang Xiaofeng's father, Zhang Qishan, was not originally from Zhe province. He came from the mountains in the north. These young men and women were actually Zhang Qishan's distant relatives who came from the remote mountains in the north. Among them, Song Shanshan was a classic example. Song Shanshan's family was distant relatives to Zhang Qishan. In addition to the fact that it was the end of the year, the schools in the remote mountains had already started their winter break. Song Shanshan's group came to Zhang Xiaofeng's house as soon as the winter break started. After they arrived, they addressed themselves as their family's distinguished guests and started asking for all sorts of things. As an elder, Zhang Qishan especially felt that it was rare for distant relatives to come to Zhe province for a vacation, so he tried his best to satisfy their requests. For example, they wanted to wear gold and silver, buy all sorts of delicious food and fun things. All of these money was now paid for by Zhang Xiaofeng's father. These students who called themselves distant relatives, on the other hand, spent money like water. It was as if they had a free ATM machine, spending money everywhere. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Ling Yichen had long been unhappy with this group of people. However, because Zhang Qishan was above them, they could only let them pester them. For example, just now when Zhang Xiaofeng finally managed to escape, Song Shanshan's group asked Chen Sini and Ling Yichen to bring them around with the excuse that they were distant relatives. Chapter 363. Song Shanshan and her friends came from the poor mountains. They had not seen much of the world on a daily basis, so they decided to stay at Zhang Xiaofeng's house since the winter break was earlier than usual. As the host, Zhang Qishan was very well behaved. He treated Song Shanshan and her family with the best hospitality that he could give them when his poor relatives came to visit. Needless to say, the glittering gowns Song Shanshan and her entourage were wearing were bought by Zhang Qishan with justifiable reasons. Otherwise, with their family's financial situation, they probably wouldn't be able to afford such an evening gown even if they spent the rest of their lives. Zhang Qishan was the only tycoon who managed to earn big bucks, so he became a free ATM in Song Shanshan and her friends' eyes. After all, Song Shanshan and her friends were used to living a hard life, so they came to Longmen City to look for Zhang Qishan. Moreover, Zhang Qishan himself was generous, so the students did not hold back when they talked nonsense. Anyway, it wasn't their money that was being used. Therefore, they began to spend lavishly. "Don't follow us anymore," Chen Sini hissed at Song Shanshan and her friends through clenched teeth. Song Shanshan and her friends were thick-skinned. Why else would they freeload at their relative's house? On the other hand, Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng were cousins. Chen Sini and Song Shanshan's group were more or less related to each other. However, the actions of Song Shanshan and her group had already made it impossible not to hate them. "Do you think I'll stop just because you say so? Humph, how dare you treat me like this? Believe it or not, I'll tell Uncle that you're bullying us." Song Shanshan pointed at Chen Sini with a smug look on her face. The uncle Song Shanshan mentioned was actually Zhang Qishan. "You." Chen Sini was angry as well. She was about to argue with Song Shanshan but was stopped by Zhang Xiaofeng. "Ignore them. We'll go our own way," Zhang Xiaofeng said, looking at Yun Jian and Chen Sini. "Wait, stop." Song Shanshan led them to stop Yun Jian and her friends, standing in the path that Yun Jian and her friends were about to go. "This is a masquerade party. Why don't you take off your jacket?" Song Shanshan stared at Yun Jian's fair and delicate face for a while and asked with a hint of envy and jealousy in her voice. Song Shanshan was asking the same question as Zhang Xiaofeng. Song Shanshan had an average appearance to begin with, especially these kids who came from the mountains. They were used to living a hard life, and now that they were in Jia province, of course, they wanted to have fun. Today at the masquerade party, Song Shanshan led the group of girls and thought that it would be great if they could have a romantic encounter at the party. Perhaps they could even catch the eye of a rich man. Yun Jian was called out all of a sudden. She was extremely lazy. She glanced at Song Shanshan and her friends from the corner of her eyes and replied, "I don't want to take it off." Yun Jian's indifference made Song Shanshan choke. When she heard Yun Jian's words, Song Shanshan even puffed out her chest. She thought that Yun Jian's body under the down jacket would be skinny and underage. "Take it off, let me have a look." Song Shanshan's curiosity was piqued as she stopped Yun Jian and demanded unreasonably. Chapter 364. Song Shanshan and her group came from a poor village, even though they had been staying at Zhang Qishan's house for a few days. They had been trying to change themselves, such as spending Zhang Qishan's money, buying branded goods, styling their hair, and so on. But deep in their bones, they still couldn't get rid of the wildness that came from the countryside. Now that Chen Sini said that, Song Shanshan was furious. She said to Yun Jian, "What are you protecting? Are you protecting Bao? You won't even take off your jacket." Song Shanshan just wanted to see if Yun Jian's figure and proportions were slimmer than hers. After all, girls were creatures who liked to compare themselves. Although she came from a poor village, she was very concerned about these things. From Song Shanshan's point of view, Yun Jian had such a delicate face but refused to take off her down jacket. It must be because her body was too thin or she had a lot of fat around her waist. Thinking of this, Song Shanshan's expression softened a lot. "So what?" Yun Jian turned to look at Song Shanshan. She suddenly felt that this girl and the group behind her were very funny. Song Shanshan saw Yunjian's expression and knew that she was determined not to take off her down jacket. "Humph, I hate it when city people like you put on such a face and act like you're so noble." Song Shanshan first scolded Yunjian. Then, she continued to speak. The tone of her words made people feel disgusted. Song Shanshan pointed at Yunjian and shouted, "Based on your expression just now, you have to take off your down jacket today whether you want to or not." Her determined words made Yunjian frown slightly. Yunjian was not afraid of Song Shanshan's threat. "The jacket is on me. Are you sure you have the ability to take it off?" Yunjian stuck out her pinky and hooked it at Song Shanshan as if mocking her. His action infuriated Song Shanshan. Due to the backward economy and the fact that there were only a few people in the village, it would take about 2 hours to walk from the village to the town. Song Shanshan was a country bumpkin who liked to bully others with her numbers. Yunjian's action of sticking out her pinky had completely infuriated her. "Humph, you city people are so delicate. Today, I'll let you know what it's like to cry." Song Shanshan was infuriated. She looked at Yunjian's beautiful and delicate face, and her heart was already filled with envy. Now that he heard Yunjian's words, his anger was rising. "I'll beat you to death. City people. How arrogant." Song Shanshan said as she ran toward Yunjian, trying to pull off Yunjian's down jacket. Song Shanshan's brute force was considered decent among women. However, in front of Yunjian, it was not enough. After Song Shanshan's ruckus, many people around had turned to look. When everyone looked over, they saw Song Shanshan pouncing toward Yunjian, trying to hold her down and forcefully pull off her clothes. However, the crowd only saw Yunjian tilting her body slightly and dodging Song Shanshan's pounce. Then, she smirked coldly and took off her down jacket in front of everyone. In the next second, she grabbed the down jacket and wrapped it around Song Shanshan, tying her up like how a person would be tied up. This was Yunjian's jacket that she had taken off herself. However, when Song Shanshan was tied up into a hemp ball and fell to the ground, the crowd saw Yunjian's slender body exposed to their eyes. The black hollowed-out evening gown on her body accentuated her shapely figure, making it hard for people to take their eyes off her. Song Shanshan was tied up and thrown to the ground, but she could still see Yunjian. Chapter 365. It was undeniable that Yunjian's perfect figure, coupled with her exquisite and perfect face, was revealed when she removed the clumsy down jacket. Right now, she was definitely the most eye-catching among everyone present. Song Shanshan, who was slightly bound by the down jacket, was dumbfounded. She stared at the absolutely stunning young lady standing in front of everyone's eyes. At that moment, Song Shanshan regretted her decision to make Yunjian take off her jacket. When she came back to her senses, Song Shanshan screamed, "Let me go! Let me go! Is this how you treat your guests? I'm a guest from afar, you can't treat me like this." Song Shanshan struggled a few times but realized that she could not break free from the down jacket's bindings. It was just a down jacket, but after Yunjian tied Song Shanshan up, it seemed to have become a complicated rope. Song Shanshan could not break free from it at all. "What are you screaming for? Scream again and I'll throw you out on the streets." Yunjian lowered her head and glared at Song Shanshan, threatening her. When Song Shanshan heard Yunjian's threat, she really shut her mouth and did not say another word. The way Yunjian tied her up just now was too strange. She was really scared from the bottom of her heart. "Master, you're amazing." Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing beside Yunjian, kept winking at Yunjian. He stood aside and whispered to Yunjian. Only God knew how long Song Shanshan had led this group of relatives to freeload at their house. At first, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini naturally fought back. In the end, Song Shanshan complained to Zhang Qishan and was severely reprimanded. Even Zhang Xiaofeng's pocket money was confiscated by Zhang Qishan. It was not hard to imagine how much Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini hated Song Shanshan and her gang at this moment. Yunjian did not look at Zhang Xiaofeng. She glanced sideways at Song Shanshan and her gang. Then, she licked her lips and said again, "Take this down jacket as a gift from me. Even dogs know when to bite. If you bark, you're worse than a beast." After that, Yun Jian called out to Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Yi, and the four of them turned and left. Song Shanshan and the others were left behind. They could not even maintain their dignity. However, they were being watched by the people around them and did not dare to chase after them. Moreover, everyone had witnessed Yun Jian's skills just now, so they dared not behave atrociously. Once they left, Zhang Xiaofeng could not help guffawing. "Ha ha ha, master, you're awesome. Did you see how Song Shanshan looked like she just ate sh*t? Ha, that was so satisfying. Heh heh, Jian, honestly, I'm impressed." Chen Sini gave Yun Jian a thumbs up as she chuckled without a trace of her ladylike image. Sigh, damn, I've never seen a distant relative like her. Freeloading at your house all day long. How scary. Ling Yichen could not help exclaiming. Xiao Jian, what you did just now was so cool. Even her brother, Yun Yi, who had been quiet all this while, could not help exclaiming. Go, do you want to learn? Yun Jian turned to look at Yun Yi and asked with a chuckle. Of course. Yun Yi gave Yun Jian an affirmative answer. I'll teach you and Zhang Xiaofeng this trick later, Yun Jian said with a smile. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.